And we are live from the greatest city in America, Columbus, Georgia. Come reporting. Hey, Undisputed GOAT podcast is back this week. Hey, we got the usual suspects in here with my main man Flash and BRF Sports. Not to mention, man, hey, I'm talking about the NBA today. So I brought the heat today. I brought my main man Casual, man, the expert on NBA. I wouldn't have brought the whole, in the great words, how we say it down south, I wouldn't have brought everything but the kitchen sink for you today. So, hey, Casual, man, how you doing, man?
Hey man, I'm blessed. I can't complain because it wouldn't do no good, right? When nobody want to listen to it.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Flash, how you doing, man?
Same. I am alive. I'm breathing. I'm above ground, so I can't really ask for much more than that.
There we go.
No, indeed not, brother. And Georgia's own, my Georgia brother, BRF Sports, man. How you doing, bro?
Man, life is going pretty good. Well, I kind of want to give a kind of update. I got probably the biggest interview of my life tomorrow, cause like I said, I work at the Lowe's down here, and I'm interviewing for a department managerial job tomorrow. So wish me luck on that.
Hey,
Hell yes. That's what I'm talking about, man.
Prayers with you, brother.
Prayers with him, man. BRF, man. Hey, nothing but the best of luck to you, man. Hey, big shout out, man. Doing big things. Hey, I'm gonna just say it, man. It's already yours, bro. It's already yours, man. The
Go
name
get
of
it.
Jesus, it's already yours, man. Hey.
Appreciate that support, y'all.
Hey, man, always, brother. But I would be remiss if I didn't say this, man. The NBA playoffs have been heating up. Man, we've seen some hell of a performance. We've seen the defending champs in trouble, down by 2 games. We've seen New York make a big ass comeback, man. Hey, we're even seeing as we speak right now, old school matchup, the New York Knicks versus the Indiana Pacers. Man, you just can't ask for too much more than that, man. Hey, Casual, give us your opinion about the NBA playoffs at this point, man.
man. God, the young is taking over the old. I was saying it before the season started that LeBron James, KD, Kawhi Leonard, Stephen Curry, those players, it's only a matter of time before they finally, fall out of supremacy or they'll lose their stranglehold on the NBA. And lo and behold, I didn't expect it to be this year. And these young guys, they want it. They're taking it from them. They're not asking for it, and they're just much more impactful. Like when you go and you look at, for instance, that Lakers versus Denver Nuggets series, the Lakers had dominated with LeBron James and AD over the Denver Nuggets for I want to say 152 minutes of that series. But every time it came down the stretch, the Nuggets executed to a T. They knew exactly what they wanted to do, who they wanted to go to, and they executed those plans marvelously. Even if you look at a series the Timberwolves versus the Phoenix Suns, sure, KD put up his statistical numbers because he's just naturally a great player, but the impact just was not felt like it would be back in, let's say, 2017, back in 2014, when KD was in his prime at the peak of his powers, because that man over there in a Timberwolves uniform and Anthony Edwards, he mimics the exact same qualities that KD has, yet he has a team around him that's able to neutralize what Kevin Durant wants to do. And that's really been the name of the game for this entire postseason. It's just defense is back, and these young stars are dominant with the pieces around them.
What do you think, Flash?
I agree with the old with Casual, with the young taking over the old. I don't think it was as surprising as it's a year early. I mean, we're getting to the point where we started to see Golden State start to take a downturn last year. LeBron and AD, that Lakers team has just not been the same since the bubble. They can't close out games. They can't decide on a coach. They they get rid of players that they shouldn't. So that team's just been kind of a mess since then. you know, and we've also had some injuries. You know, the funny thing is nobody's really talking about the Celtics at all. You know, it's really weird how everybody's just kind of focusing on everything else but Boston, and Boston so far is just, you know, doing what Boston's expected to do, or was expected to do this season, especially considering that they're mostly healthy. I think Casual was completely right about the defense. Was on the NBA show saying that Minnesota's defense is one of, if not the best defense he's ever seen, which that's saying something. I mean, dude played in the era of, you know, the 80s Celtics and the bad boy Pistons and the 90s. Yeah. Like, that's saying something. And I think what's different about this Timberwolves team is you see a lot of, like, I'd say not our generation. Our generation's the next generation. So the KD, LeBron, Kawhi, they only had a tendency, and this may be a strong statement. They had a tendency to play defense when they had to. This Timberwolves team, the whole roster, even the stars, play defense from start to finish. Yep. And it's just a different animal. It's just a different, like, you know, Ant is a throwback. I think we're kind of seeing that a little bit with some of the younger stars like Giannis and Ant, where, you know, they're more throwback than the guys prior to them, like the LeBrons in the 80s with load management and everything else. And, well, I'm going to save my energy for, you know, offensive production and anything else. And these guys are just going and getting it. And I love it. As an old school guy, I love it. So that's my opinion.
Yeah. Hey, man, look, I'll be remiss before I let you go, BRF. Do y'all think that this Timberwolves defense is better than the 04 Detroit Pistons defense?
No. They're good, but no.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. No.
Really?
I had to ask that question, man. I had to ask that question.
No. Okay. See what I like about. All right, I'll kind of. What I like about Minnesota defense is their ability. I like their ability because you know how we say, like, push the pace, and how we really only kind of talk about that with the offense. They do that on the defensive end. I enjoy how they hold the tempo from the defensive end. They make you do what they want you to do. And that's what I really enjoy seeing from the Minnesota defense. It's like you got Gobert anchoring, and then you got Ant on the perimeter. You got Jaden McDaniels. They make you do what they want you to do. They control tempo. They control pace. And that's what I love about the Minnesota defense. But as far as saying, are they better than the 04 Pistons? No chance. No, just from the standpoint of, I think with the Pistons, every single one of their starters could have made an all-defensive team. That defense for the 04 Pistons was just a whole nother level of defense. It's good. I do enjoy watching Minnesota's defense, but they're not touching the 04 Pistons. They're not touching them.
Okay, dear. I just had to ask that question since we was on the subject of defense. But shout out to my main man, PSP. Catch the Sports PSP podcast every Friday night at 9. Hey, as you already know, I'm always on that podcast as well. But my man PSP, congratulations on 1,600K followers, my man. Congratulations. I would be remiss if I didn't say that. Catch the podcast Friday night. 1,600. Yeah, 1,600.
Oh, 1,600. Oh, okay, I was about to say, oh my Lord. What's that? 1,600?
1,600 a lot, especially on YouTube.
Yeah. No, facts.
Hey, we rap. We put it up for them, most definitely.
Hey, man, look, you got to put on for your people, man. PSP is my peeps, man. Gotta rep. Hey, Brick City in the house. But hey, man, my personal opinion, man, this playoff series has been definitely the changing of the guard at this point. Definitely been the changing of the guard, because the thing is this, man. Hey, everybody thought that we was going to at least see LeBron make it to the semifinals. We haven't seen that. Hey, unfortunately, Steph is out of the playoffs, and it pretty much and I'll get you guys' opinion on this in a second, but in my humble opinion, the era of pretty much the quote-unquote super team is pretty much over, where you're just putting together superstars hoping to win a championship. So in my humble opinion, that is over. I'd love to get you guys' opinion on it, but in my humble opinion, especially with KD and them getting kicked out of the playoffs in the first round and that team not having a lot of continuity, plus with Frank Vogel being one and done, I think the era of the super team is over. But let me know what you think, Casual.
In my opinion, that super team era ended back in 2019. The moment KD went down with that ACL injury, that's the moment that the super team era ended. Because if you look through the rest of the rest of the postseason successes, I mean, you look at the Lakers the year after. I mean, obviously the Toronto Raptors in 2019. You look at Giannis Antetokounmpo and what he did with the Milwaukee Bucks. That's not considered a super team. You look at what the Denver Nuggets did last year. You look at what the Golden State Warriors pulled off in 2022. Like the past few years has not. You've seen teams try to, power up, if you will, with talent, and ultimately they're not successful because when it comes to the NBA today, depth and continuity rules all.
So I want to kind of piggyback off that, if you don't mind. So we kind of our age range kind of considers the 80s, 90s basketball the golden age of basketball, like that. I think we're going to see a revival of that. Kind of saying. Going off of what Casual is saying, you see stars in everywhere, and there's no rumblings this year of Giannis leaving Milwaukee. It's really quiet on that front because normally you'd hear, "Oh, is Giannis going to the Lakers yet? When's he going to the Lakers? Is he going to the Knicks? We just want him to go to the Knicks." Like we would be hearing that like every other Bleacher Report post would be, sources say that Giannis is upset with so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. And we're not hearing that at all. And I think we're going to see a golden era, or a revival of spread out competition of basketball. What it was originally supposed to be when they put all the salary cap stuff into play. And now we're seeing it. Now we got guys that, no, I want to do this my own way. I'm not going to go team up with my bro from AAU or whatever. I'm just I want this for it's just a different breed. And I love it. I just love it as an old school guy. Love it.
Frank?
All right. Well, I'm before I get into that, I want to kind of back the first question you asked, because I really didn't get my opinion on the playoffs and how I think they've been going so far. I've been enjoying. I've been enjoying them. I've really been enjoying them. I don't know. I just feel like they've all been entertaining series. Even the one you really didn't think was going to be entertaining in Orlando and Cleveland, that's the one that won 7 games. I mean, they've all. I mean, it's been an entertaining playoffs, and the Minnesota Timberwolves have been, for me, just the standout team for me these playoffs so far, because when we did that podcast, I think they had posed the question, saying, what are you looking for in these playoffs? And I said the Minnesota Timberwolves, I felt, were the X factor of these entire playoffs, because they were either going to lay an egg or they were going to make a run to the Western Conference Finals. I think they're going to beat Denver. I think it's crazy to say. It's kind of crazy to say, because I felt like Denver was still the most balanced team going into these playoffs. Just how they execute, with Jokic running his position, winning the MVP again, 3rd time in 4 years. Just loving how he operates, just offensively, defensively. I thought Minnesota was the most balanced. Denver was the most balanced team, but Minnesota, I felt, was that team that could really, when the matchup was set in stone that it was going to be Minnesota-Denver, I just I got to watch this, because I want to see how Minnesota operates with a team like Denver, who really was clicking and going on all cylinders. And Minnesota to this point has just been so great. And Anthony Edwards right now, he's the MVP of the playoffs. what he's doing is just short of insane. What he's been doing, I'm enjoying these playoffs so far. But to go to this current question about as far as like, yeah, I'm enjoying what I'm seeing from guys like Ant, from guys like from SGA, the young guys that are coming in really, wanting to take this league and, put their face on it, put their name on it. I'm loving it. And with LeBron and KD and Steph and the way those teams were kind of assembled, for me, all those teams really weren't assembled to really do much if they made the playoffs. Like Golden State missing the playoffs for me was not surprising. LA losing the way they did to Denver was not surprising. Denver's just more, well, I guess surprising from the standpoint the Lakers had the lead as much of that series as they did, only to just blow it out anyway, because at the end of the day, Denver was the better second half team. They were the better fourth quarter team. They when it came down to making adjustments and knowing when to execute late in the game, they just knew how to do it. And Denver was just leaps and bounds ahead of the Lakers when it came to late game executing. And Phoenix, for me, with KD, with Phoenix, that was Brooklyn West for me. And they weren't even as good as those Brooklyn teams in terms of, their offense, even with a guy like Devin Booker. I wasn't expecting them to get swept. I'll say that. But I was expecting Minnesota to put them out 5, possibly 6. I wasn't expecting a sweep. But those first 2 games in that series was what did it for me. It was really the game 2 where Ant really didn't have a game, but he didn't let it stop him as far as being able to play defense and being able to shut people down. After that second game, it was just like, yeah, I think Minnesota's probably about to run these boys off the floor. And that's exactly what they did in games 3 and 4. So just these young guys coming in and making a statement. I'm loving it. I'm loving every second of these playoffs, and I just want more good basketball. I'm enjoying it.
Hey man, I'm enjoying it as well, man. I am as well. Let's go to the chat real quick and see what the audience have to say. Okay, leave it to PSP to impose the hard questions. Who would you rather build around, Ant or Jason Tatum? Hey, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Let's touch on that real quick. What do y'all think? Let's make this a quick segment, man. Who would y'all rather build around? Let's start with the
Say it again.
Let's answer PSP's question. Who would you rather build around, Jason Tatum or Ant?
Jason Tatum. What? Is that like a trick question or something?
No, is it that quick though?
Please tell me it's not. Please tell me we're not being prisoners of the moment. I feel like
I'm not just factoring like how good they are right now, but I'm talking about. I mean, how old's Tatum right now at this point?
Tatum is like 26. Yeah, Tatum is 26 years old. He turned 26 2 months ago.
Okay.
Anthony Edwards is like 21, 22.
Yeah. All of them real young. I mean, you can't go. In my humble opinion, real quick, Flash, you can't go wrong with either one of them. I mean,
I don't either.
Agreed.
I don't think it's that quick of an answer.
Agreed. I don't think you can go wrong with either one. There's a lot of young stars that if you would put them in the same position, I mean, you could say that you couldn't go wrong with neither one of them. But like, it's between those two specifically, which one would you much rather have? You would want the player that has more upside defensively, is already currently peaking in his scoring form, a much better 3-point shooter. The versatility is astounding. Like, we just watched him in a series against the Miami Heat, literally guard Bam Adebayo, and then in the next possession he had to go out and guard who's the guard? Tyler Hero, because Tyler Hero started to get off, so he had to guard him, and then also had to get into the lanes because they started running motion offense. Eric Spoelstra started running motion offense after pressing the Celtics to finish them off. So, like, Jason Tatum has literally shown you versatility on the defensive end while also becoming a better playmaker than Anthony Edwards. And I don't think Anthony Edwards is going to get that much better of a playmaker because I just think his shot selection is just always going to be what it is, which isn't a bad thing because he's a very, very
He's
good,
only
tough
20,
shot maker.
he's only 22. How can his
Because what circumstance do you see? Can you foresee happening for Anthony Edwards to have to develop more of a keen eye for getting his teammates involved more than him taking the shot himself?
If he loses Cat,
I mean that I don't even think that would help.
Why can't
I don't think that would help. I would think Mike Conley retiring would probably be the thing that would have to force him to. But I don't think Mike Conley is going to retire until Anthony Edwards is like well into his prime.
So that's what I'm saying. Like he's not even in his prime yet, so he has room to grow. So to say that he'll never ever have a better shot selection is silly. Look at Tatum.
I said no. I compared him to Tatum. I compared to Tatum. He's not going to be a better playmaker than Tatum.
What do you think, Frank?
I think I would take Tatum between the two, but I think Ant, in terms of his playmaking ability, I think there is still room for growth there. I mean, his best. I think what makes Ant great. I mean, okay, Jason Tatum is definitely a better 3-point shooter than Ant, but I love Ant's ability to create. As far as like Ant's ability to create his own shot is already like up there with the best players in the world in terms of his ability to create his own shot. I mean, it's already up there, and his playmaking his playmaking this year did improve. His playmaking did get a lot better. So there is still some room for growth there with his playmaking, but I do agree from the standpoint at this point in terms of the full facet of the game and the fact that he's still only 26 years old. I think you have to go with Jason Tatum here, just from the standpoint that I still feel like at 26 he still hasn't even scratched the full surface as far as what his full potential is going to be. And like you was talking about in that Miami series, being able to guard almost any player on the court, you're seeing that. And his ability to score from all levels, his ability to set his teammates up. I mean, yeah, I can't argue with that one. As great as Ant's doing, you have to go. Between these two, you have to go Jason Tatum.
I do want to just like state that I'm not saying that Anthony Edwards can't get better. I'm saying, one, as much as the idea of Anthony Edwards could get better, Jason Tatum is still similarly young, so he could get better as well. So the same thing that you could say for Anthony Edwards, you could say for Jason Tatum. So that's one. And then two, I'm not saying Anthony Edwards is bad or terrible. I'm saying in contrast to the player that we're comparing him to, he's not better. And again, as he gets better, Jason Tatum is also going to get better and more comfortable.
Flash, we'll come back to you, man.
I'm back. So I think in the aspect of, I think you do go with Tatum. I just don't think it's as quick as an answer as the reason why I would go with Tatum is his versatility on defense. What? What's the code? 340622. Sorry, child.
It's okay. It's okay.
I think his versatility on defense to this point of being able to guard at least 1 through 4. Depending on how like the game goes with bigs as we get, like he's probably not going to be guarding Giannis one-on-one or Jokic, but I or Embiid, obviously. But his versatility to go 1 through 4, like Ant can't guard 4s or what is considered a 4 nowadays. So I think in that aspect, you're right, Casual, that there's more room for, how do I put this? Tatum has a better skill set, if that's what you want to say. Now, who becomes the better player at the end of their careers?
Who knows?
I don't know. I think that's why it's not as easy just to just say, no, it's Tatum. I mean, I'll put a great argument. So I had a buddy years ago that I worked with who was from Chicago and was and was our age and a Jordan, like loved Jordan as much as I love Brady. Like that was his boy. And we were in a basketball discussion and he goes, and we were talking about who out of history, who would you pick to start a franchise around as a college prospect? And he goes, Shaq, hands down. And I just go like, how can you not pick Jordan? That's insane. And he goes, Shaq's abilities coming out of college, he's like, you have to assume that you can fix the free throws. You have to assume that you can get him to, eat right and take care of his body. Like the potential. I mean, even Kobe said it. Like if Shaq takes care of himself, they have 10 rings.
Yeah.
So I think in that aspect, like where I'm going with this is Tatum has all the tools. Does he put that together and ascend to what he's supposed to? I did that. I explained that in kind of a terrible way, but that's the best way.
No. I got the gist. I got the gist of what you were saying. I understand the route that you were going, and I absolutely agree. Jason said, in the full disclosure, and PSP knows it. Shout out PSP. Salute, bro. I haven't talked to you in a while.
What's up, dude?
Like, PSP knows me. I'm like actually not that high on Tatum as is, because I think there is something to be said about a level of aggression, a level of consistency, and a level of assertiveness that Jason Tatum sorely lacks in key moments. That being said, though, even with him having those flaws, like you have to respect his ability on and off ball. You have to respect his ability as a versatile defender. You have to respect his ability and craftiness to get to the rim. You have to respect his ability to crash the boards. These are things that he has as a foundation.
Yes.
This is a foundation.
That's where I'm
saying. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
That's where I was trying to say, like Shaq's foundation is insane. So
it was a potential top 5 player or potential GOAT status.
Yes, exactly. Like that's like so there was no, you have to take that chance.
Yes.
You just do. So I get what you're saying in the Tatum argument where his abilities there, and you're right. For even though this term is overused, the aggression or killer instinct, where I think Ant is showing that a little bit more right now, currently, than what Tatum has. So that's where ability or skill sets can get trumped. Yeah. So that's where it's like it's. I don't think it's as quick of a Tatum answer. I think there's a little bit of a play in an argument, but I completely 100% agree with you on skill set.
Hell of an assessment by both of y'all. But I would be remiss if I didn't introduce my main man, straight out of New Jersey, PSP. What's going on, man?
What's good, fellas? How y'all doing today? The reason why I asked the question is because shout outs to Luis. Luis Knows Tunes does a great job as far as with his content regarding the Miami Dolphins and his wrestling. The reason why I asked the question is because he has been very critical of Jason Tatum. He thinks that Jason Tatum is currently the most overrated superstar in the NBA. He actually said he would take Jalen Brunson over Tatum.
Really?
Wow. Have you checked out the group chat?
I thought he was trolling at first. I'm not gonna lie to you.
No, he really believes it. And the reason why he's saying it is because of how the way Jalen Brunson takes over in fourth quarters. Look, I respect Jalen Brunson a lot. I think he is overachieved, and he's clearly shown that he can handle being a number one option. But over Jason Tatum, I'm not gonna go far. I think with Jason Tatum and Anthony Edwards, if you're talking about right now, I would still go Tatum because, to Casual's point, he can guard multiple positions out on the court. And I just trust his playmaking a little more, especially not only on all ball as well. But if you want to go with Ant, that's not crazy to say because I think upside the potential, it's there. And we've seen Ant be able to take over in moments. What I love about Ant is just that I know, Champ, to your point, you're tired of that dog mentality, but Ant has that in him. Hell, he came from your school, UGA. Anyone would know that better than you. And when I look at Ant, man, he has developed so much as a playmaker, as a passer, as a shooter. He's improved his 3-point percentage. And when you look at, he's more than just an athlete. And also his defense. If you look at game one, how the way he was guarding Jamal Murray a little bit early in the game, it shows you that he can defend. And I told Maria, and shout outs to Maria, she gets mad at me all the time whenever I say and over John Morant. And I'm like, really? John Morant Ant can do everything else. Like he can guard, he can defend, he's improved his shooting, he's improved so much as a passer, as a playmaker. And the best is yet to come. He's what, 22, not even 23 yet. So he hasn't even reached his potential. And he's only going to get better. If you want to say Jason Tatum right now because of what you've seen from him and what he's doing currently, I got no problem with it. But with Ant, he has mad potential, and the best is yet to come. And I'm even shocked that Minnesota is up 2-0 in this series. I still have the Denver Nuggets winning the series because, in the words of Rudy Tomjanovich, never underestimate a Harvard champion. I think the pressure is still going to be – I think the pressure is now on Minnesota because you have games 3, games 4 at your home. You already took care of business in games 1 and game 2. So, and look what they did in game 2 without Rudy Gobert. And shout out to Rudy Gobert. Congratulations for their child, for his child and everything. I think if Ant can have a monster or saving performance, and not only that too, Jaden McDaniels, Alexander Walker, you saw how the way they were guarding Jamal Murray. There was even one point they were even laughing or smiling when Jamal Murray was like frustrated. So, and when you look at the team in Minnesota, they can guard multiple. They can defend. And the X factor, one of the X factors for me was Cat, because if Cat gets them going as well as Ant, then that should tell you all you need to know about Minnesota. They actually have a good enough chance to compete. I'm just shocked right now that they up 2-0. I wouldn't be surprised. I thought it was going to be 1-1, but the fact that Minnesota is up 2-0 over the champions, I'm not saying that Minnesota's going to win this series, but if you're Denver, man, I am concerned. And how the way they are pressuring Jokic, the turnovers, and how they're getting after Jamal Murray, it's just impressive to see what Minnesota is doing. Really is.
Hey, and I'm glad that you talked about the defending champs, because that brings me to my next question. What is wrong with the defending champs? I mean, they have been – who expected them to go out down 2-0 in the great words of PSP? I expected them to be 1-1 by now. Hate to steal your thunder, PSP, but I'm just calling it as I see it. But can anybody on this panel tell me what's wrong with the champs? Flash, you tell me what's wrong, man?
I don't think anything's wrong. I mean, they went and took care of LA. Don't get me wrong. In the first half of the games, they looked a little sluggish. It took them to the second half to kind of put LA away. And you can argue whether LA choked it away or Denver just kind of was Denver. I'm sure there is the old adage of there's a little bit of champ fatigue. Are you as hungry as you were before you won the title? So I'm sure it's a little bit bad, but I just think Minnesota's good. I don't think anything's wrong. Sometimes you're just not as good as the team across the court from you. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's that complicated. And to what PSP, this isn't over yet. Now if Minnesota goes in, and we're up 3-0, then I know crazy stuff has happened, especially like in the last 20 years in general, but
not a 3-0 deficit.
No, we've only seen that once in baseball, and I think once or twice in hockey, and that's about it. So if it's up 3-0, I think it's kind of over. I just think Minnesota's better. I think they're better defensively. I think they're younger. They're a little bit more. I just think they have the right They have Rudy Gobert, who can, he's not going to stop Jokic. He's not going to stop, but he's going to make him work for it. So it's not as, and so and then it falls a lot more on Murray. And to what PSP said, they're giggling, laughing at him and defending him. It's very Bad Boys, Pistons, 90s eras Bulls of just like putting a clamp on him and just giggling and laughing when they're getting all frustrated. So I just think Minnesota's better.
Frank?
Well, champ, if we go back, and PSP should remember this when we talked about the Minnesota Timberwolves, who did I say was the X factor going into that series against Denver? Who did I say was the X factor? I said it was Karl Anthony Towns. He was the X factor of that series because if he takes any bit of scoring burden off of Anthony Edwards, Minnesota's that much scarier. And particularly that game too, Karl Anthony Towns, he came out and he balled and he did his thing. He set the tone. That's why, and it was that between that and the way they were still playing that defense. That's why they were able to really run through Denver the way they did in game 2, because Karl Anthony Towns is setting the tone, being that guy. I don't want to call Karl Anthony Towns a sidekick to Anthony Edwards, because Karl Anthony Towns is a multi-time All-Star in his own right. So he's definitely not a sidekick, but it's just the way Anthony Edwards was playing. He's kind of taking that lead as being kind of almost like the top dog for this franchise. But I said, if Karl Anthony Towns can give you 20 plus a game, if he can kind of give you near that 10 rebound a game, if he can play like that All-Star, it's going to be that much harder, because then you can't double anybody. You can't double anybody. You have to worry about both of them at the same time. You can't try. It's not one of those where it's like, okay, well, if we take out Ant, nobody else is really going to do anything. We can have our way with the rest of the team. Now it's like, okay, who do you worry about here? And I think, and for coaches, as far as like being able to game plan and scheme defensively, having to worry about multiple guys is always way worse than only having to worry about one, because then you're trying to be more schematic. You're trying to understand how to roll this way, screens, and how to be able to take this dude, whether he's on the ball or off the ball. How do we focus off him? How do we keep him away from the ball? You can't really do that as easily if Karl Anthony Towns is putting up numbers, because then you have to worry about him, not just on the low block, not just in the post, but his ability to shoot the 3-ball. You have to worry about that too. And then if you get him and Ant going at the same time, how do you manage? I feel like if any team can do it, it's Denver, because they have multiple guys who can score the ball as well. But at the same time, I feel like with Minnesota, there's just more. I don't know. There's like a killer mentality with this whole team that we really haven't seen from a full unit in a while. And I think that's what's really setting the tone for this series. And that's what Minnesota's really been able to jump on them and go up 2-0. Because even though the pressure is on Minnesota, I feel like even though the pressure is on Minnesota, I feel like they get one of these next two. Pressure is all on Denver at that point to try to hang around in the series if Minnesota can get one of this next two. Now, being Minnesota, of course, they're going to try to go for it, because, of course they're going to try and go for these 2 games. But, if they get one of these next 2, the pressure is solely on Denver to try to hang in the series. And I feel like if Minnesota gets one of these next 2, I think they're really going to be ready to put they're going to feel like the way they're feeling, the way their confidence is right now, they get one of these next 2 games, they're going to feel like their foot's already on the throat, and they're just ready to, to bear down and just end this series. So I just think Minnesota is just operating at a better level right now than the Denver Nuggets. I don't think it's really anything wrong with Denver, like Flash said. I just think Minnesota right now is executing them.
I actually don't think there's any pressure on Minnesota. They have no expectations. Don't get me wrong, they've been good all year, but the champs are expected to be the champs. Minnesota's playing with house money. So, if they lose the series, they're like, well, you lost to the 3-time MVP and the defending champs. That happens. But, I think there's no pressure.
I don't think so either. But we'll get the expert. What you think, man?
y'all typically know me to go into like the statistics and stuff, and I could do that, but it's really just as simple as the Timberwolves are hooping. The Jokic Nuggets are trying to out scheme the Minnesota Timberwolves. And what is there? How do you scheme something that isn't trying to scheme? Like, how do you scheme something that is unschemable? Like, they're trying to scheme and get Jaden McDaniels off of Nikola Jokic. I mean, not Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray. Well, I mean, they have like a slew of other guards and wings to throw at Jamal Murray specifically. Whereas if you get Jaden McDaniels off of him, cool. Nickeil Alexander is literally waiting so that he could take on an assignment next. You get him off of him, cool. Anthony Edwards is waiting to pick him up. He gets past him, cool. You have a 7-footer in either Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert, or Naz Reid that's sitting in the paint waiting to pack their shit to the second row. And so that's really what's going on right now. The Denver Nuggets need to stop being so. This sounds so crazy of me to say, but they need to stop being so stat guy-ish. Stop trying to go with what the stats say and just hoop. Because I'm telling you right now, the Timberwolves. I was looking at them in Game 2, and I was very intensely looking at Game 2 because I was wondering, like, Game 1, like the Denver Nuggets lost by 7, but it didn't feel like the game was ever really like close for them. And I'm like, okay, so what is going on? And I'm looking at them, they're just picking them up full court, Jackie Yates style. Anybody from Houston, Jackie Yates salute. Like they're just picking them up full court press. And then once they get half court, they're trying to set screens to get Jaden McDaniels off of Jamal Murray, and they're just denying the switch. I'm not switching. I'm not going anywhere. You got Nikola Jokic getting the ball in the post, and he's waiting for the offensive set to the motion to go through so that he could be able to pick his spots and he could try to pick apart the defense. When lo and behold, the Minnesota Timberwolves are not moving. They're not trying to rotate. They're not doing none of that. They are playing stay on your man. If your man scored, that's your fault. They're playing pickup level basketball. They're playing middle school, high school basketball at the highest level right now.
See,
go ahead. That's the thing. That's the thing that the Denver Nuggets are struggling with, because when they give the ball to Nikola Jokic, the problem is Nikola Jokic is playing. He's playing pass first and then score secondly, because he's trying to get Jamal Murray, KCP, MPJ involved. And that's exactly what the Timberwolves want him to do, because that means he's going to be over-reliant on his teammates to get off so that he can open the opportunities for him to get off. The Timberwolves know that, so that's why they're playing one-on-one defense. Whenever Jokic gets the ball in the post, they're just saying, Rudy Gobert, do your thing. This is what you get paid the big bucks to do. Guard him in the post. And then Nikola Jokic doesn't know what to do at that point, because up until now, every series they've gone through against the Phoenix Suns last year, Miami last year, the Lakers for the past 2 years, they have been playing him for him to play reaction. But they just rotate and he makes the reaction. This Timberwolves defense, they're not moving, so there's nothing to react to. Just go out there and get a bucket. And that's the big problem with the Denver Nuggets right now. Are they going to fix that problem? I don't know. PSP, I'm with you. I think I have the Nuggets still winning this because I picked them to start the postseason, to win the championship. I picked them to beat the Timberwolves before the series started. So damn it, I have to stand on 10, right? So I'm riding with the Nuggets, but I don't know if Jokic has it in him to make that adjustment. Mentally, not skill wise. I know he has the skill to. I don't think he has the mentality, not that I don't think he does. I don't know if he has the mentality to switch from being a pass first, electrifying playmaker to all of a sudden turning the clock back to 2000s and turning into Shaquille O'Neal and dominating whoever's in the post guard. I don't know if he has that in him.
Go ahead. I apologize.
Dirty Jersey hurt him down.
Yeah. To Casual's point, the only reason why I'm sticking with Jokic is because I gotta stand by the ship. But I gotta agree with you, Casual. Jokic, to me, it seems like he's too reliant on trying to get everyone involved because, of course, once he tries to get everyone involved, it's going to open opportunities for him as far as scoring the bucket. But the Minnesota Timberwolves, what we're seeing, they're playing chess, not checkers. They're finding way. They know exactly what they're going to do with Jokic. That is putting pressure on him. I just think with the Minnesota Timberwolves, for games 3 and games 4, if Denver is going to have any chance of winning, how, like, what is it? Of course, you want to take away take away Ant and Karl Anthony Towns. Another X factor that I don't think is getting enough credit, not just Naz Reid, and which by the way, he played fantastic in game 1 and game 2, especially game 2, not just with the defense on Jokic, but also in the perimeter against Jamal Murray. Mike Conley. I don't think Mike Conley has been getting enough credit because of his his leadership, his IQ, and I just feel like if he can give you some good production, whether in the first or the second half, that speaks volumes. I just don't know what Mike Malone is going to have to come up with, but he's going to have to come up with something. Unfortunately, to Champ's demise, we've seen the Lakers have opportunities with big leads, and unfortunately, they couldn't capitalize. Minnesota Timberwolves are a different ball game. They're a different team, and I just feel like they're playing chess, not checkers. Jokic, I don't know what he is capable. He is capable. Do I think he's going to have to dominate like Shaquille O'Neal? To your point, Casual. No, I don't see that. I don't think he has that type of component as far as with his game. No way disrespecting Jokic. I still believe to this day he's still, in my opinion, the best player in the NBA. But you're going to need an awful lot. But with Anthony Edwards, I wanted to see the matchup between him and KCP. We give a lot of love to KCP, and rightfully so, because of what he can do on the perimeter defense. And I just feel like he's just grown and evolved. And I just feel like with the Timberwolves, man, they can really actually do something. To Flash's point, they are playing with house money. I still think the pressure at game 3, game 4, because again, it is in your home turf. But I think this could be a great opportunity for Minnesota and moving forward for Anthony Edwards, because could he be the face of the NBA? Could he be in the conversation for the MVP next year? You never know. But with Denver, I'm not going to discount them because, in the words of the great Rudy Tomjanovich, never underestimate the heart of a champion. Again, Mike Malone, he was pissed off in game 2, so he's going to have to do something. But I mean, in game 3, it's going to be tough because Rudy Gobert is going to come back. He's going to come back. He's not. He's not going to neutralize Jokic, but he's going to figure out ways to make Jokic difficult. I just think, who's going to be Denver that's going to step up in this game? Because Jamal Murray is getting frustrated. Jokic is committing turnovers. Michael Porter is doing what he can as far as scoring the bucket. Who in Denver? I mean, Aaron Gordon. And I like Aaron Gordon a lot, but he's been, for the past couple of games, he's been struggling. I just think Denver didn't know what they were expecting with the Minnesota Timberwolves, because this is not the team that they were last year in the first round. They've gotten better. They've grown. I just like what Minnesota has done, and I just think that they're going to be in the future. That's what I really think.
See, I to Casual's point about that Minnesota is just playing, it's just hooping better. I don't think that's it. I think you're kind of half right. So, like when you say that, Denver's trying to scheme and get, switches to free up Murray. The problem is that even when they do switch, Minnesota has so much depth, it doesn't matter. So you can't out scheme depth, and for lack of a better term, you can't. It's kind of why the 90s Bulls. The reason why, you had Jordan, and don't get me wrong, but that defense from 1 to 5 was insane. Like, you couldn't switch off anybody. Sure, you could switch off of Pippen, but then you had to deal with Jordan. Then okay, fine, you switched off of Jordan. Well, then you had to deal with Ron Harper, like and then you had Rodman too on top of it. Like you just, and I think that's what Minnesota's doing. You can create a switch all you want, you can set screens and whatever, but when you finally do get the switch, it doesn't matter because the defender's so good. So and they're just a better athletic team on top of it. So I think you're right in the aspect of they're trying to out scheme them, but you can't completely out scheme. In basketball is one of the few games or few sports that you can't out scheme talent.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree. I definitely think. I definitely think that the Timberwolves defense is specifically on the perimeter and the rim protection that they have, like the countless bodies that they can throw at Nikola Jokic. They're one of the only teams that can throw multiple bodies at Nikola Jokic while also throwing multiple bodies at Jamal Murray, KCP, Michael Porter Jr. Anybody that puts the ball on the floor, they have somebody that either matches their size or they're much larger with a level of tenacity that the Nuggets just have not seen in the past. Like really, they haven't. Nobody has seen in the past like half a decade, I think. But but even with that, when I say that they're hooping, I'm not saying that they're hooping better, like they're playing basketball better. I'm saying when I say hooping, like Champ understands what I'm saying. When I say hooping, I mean they're just going out on the floor, no scheme, ain't no go and do this. The only thing that Chris Finch is telling them to do, go out there, play defense for 48 minutes. Don't come back to me unless you got a steal or a block recorded. And that's what they're playing like. You looking at Jamal Murray is going to the rim, and typically, if a player blows past them because they don't want to potentially collect that foul, they'll stop. They'll stop chasing after them, and it'll be an easy layup. Watching Jaden McDaniels continuing to like chase after this dude, even after he gets like enough space for him to get a layup, and you think it's open. Jaden McDaniels coming out and swatting it. Like this is the type of second wind or effort that they're giving. It's not a playbook that you can read that can tell you how to stop somebody from over energizing you. Like they're just energizer bunnies playing what we did back in the rec, back in the day when we'll be playing at the rec. They're doing that. The only difference between us and them is this is some of the best athletes in the world doing it. That's the only difference. That's what I mean when I say they're just hooping. The Nuggets are trying to run sets. The Timberwolves are trying to punish them. They're trying to beat them up.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and you're right. I
think it's just a testament to just how hungry the Timberwolves are. I think in the word as Shaq said it when he quoted Michael Jordan, before you succeed, you must first learn to fail. And I think with Minnesota, they're looking to get revenge at Denver for last year in the playoffs. And when you just look at how much development that they've made, and I just feel like this could be a great opportunity for them. And when Casual mentions hooping, he's not necessarily hooping as like hooping. They're just like going through the instincts, just going and seeing what Denver is doing, and then just picking them apart. I mean, it's getting bad for Jamal Murray. I don't know, was it either Nicholas Alexander Walker or McDaniels? They're literally laughing at Jamal Murray. Like even Reggie Miller was pointing it out. They're just toying with him. They're like, man, you can't deal with us. This is not the same team you were dealing with last year. We're not the Lakers. And it's just like, oh my God, they're making it more difficult than it needs to be. And the fact that even though he scored 27 in game 2, that was like a quiet 27. Just the fact they just picking them apart. And I'm like, Mike Malone, like what is going on? I still got Denver winning this series, man, but I'm concerned if I'm Denver. And also shout out to the assistant coach from Minnesota, because of course the primary head coach with the knee injury, he's actually looking really good. And I think this could is looking really good for Minnesota. Denver, man, is starting to look scary. It's not looking good at all, and you're just gonna have to figure out what adjustments do you need to make, because you got a big game tomorrow, and this is an opportunity that you got to capitalize. Time's the one thing you could never recapture.
OG, can I say,
Matchup
is it all right if I
basketball.
say
That's
one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just
Go
one more
ahead,
thing before
Casper,
we move
before we
on.
move to the
Because
next segment.
there's one thing that I would be remiss if we did not acknowledge. There's also like this big elephant in the room. Last year, one of the main reasons why people were not so we're not so ready to give Nikola Jokic the keys to the car was because of how bad they said he was on defense. Now, an argument that people were making during the postseason, even though they ultimately won the championship, they didn't go up against anybody outside of Anthony Edwards, who at the time hadn't developed to what he has been performing to the level that he's been performing at now. And he was the only one that truly put pressure on them around the rim. Y'all see what he's doing right now? Do y'all see what Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves are doing right now? They're just pummeling the Nuggets in the paint. And really they're doing it to everybody. They're pummeling them in the paint because they know nobody can stop them at the rim. There's nobody outside of like maybe four big men in the league that can really hold their own at restricting Anthony Edwards and company around the rim, and one of them is on their team. And Nuggets do not have one. So, like this is the part where I give some statistics. The Timberwolves are out efficiencying. Yes, I just created that word. They're out efficiencying the Denver Nuggets in every single category. You look at field goal percentage, they're shooting +4% higher than them. You look at 3-point percentage, which a lot of people are shocked by, they're shooting 5% higher than them. They're shooting 37.6 to the Denver Nuggets 32.2. And even when you go to around the rim, and this is the part that is just like mind-blowing, they are +10 on the Denver Nuggets around the rim. That is lethal. I don't care who you go up against. The Denver Nuggets are in trouble. They're in trouble. And there's no way around it. They're in trouble.
No, they are, and they got a big game tomorrow, and they're gonna have to do something casual. Otherwise, it's going to get worse. Because for the fact that the reigning champions, they're gonna get swept, especially with Nikola Jokic winning the third MVP. And shout out to Jokic, got no problem with it. This is gonna look real bad.
Real bad.
Real bad. But to your point, casual. I mean, with the defense, especially with the interior, that's what's mind-boggling to me. Denver cannot find any way to stop Minnesota in the paint, and Denver, you're gonna have to figure out what you're gonna have to do as far as getting big men, interior big men, whether in the draft or free agency.
Agreed. Hey, before we go into the next section, go into the next segment, I believe. Hey, man, hell of a job on that, man. Hey, when I tell you Casual brings the heat when it comes to the stats, Casual brings the heat. Hey, shout out to Sports for You podcast, man. Best in the West, man. Hey, show every Monday and Wednesday, man. I'll be remiss, man. Hell of a show, man. Had the privilege of being on there this past Tuesday, man. Hell of a show, man. Hey, straight out of Los Angeles. Hell of a job. Babe, but hey, since we're on the subject of Jokic at this point in time, what is his legacy in the NBA at this point in time? Is he top 5 at this point in time? Is he top 10? Let's hear some opinions about that. Jersey, let's hear yours, man.
Oh man, shout out to New Jersey. My thing with Nikola Jokic is I love him. He's my favorite. He's one of my favorite players in the NBA. I still think he's the best player in the NBA because of what he can do offensively, as far as with the passing, the playmaking, how he makes other guys around him better. I remember we had this conversation on our show, on my show, Champ, the Sports PSP, and you even asked the question, like, is it because of the fact that he's European or whatever? I just think with Jokic, man, he just gets so much flack from a lot of people, particularly from Nick Wright and Kendrick Perkins. And I just feel like they're not appreciating or respecting the greatness of what you see, because this is a guy who puts up these types of numbers, high efficiency. He's always up there with PER, high event stats. I mean, what is it about Jokic that you don't like? Okay, fine. Yes, Jokic does come across his personality. I mean, fine, he loves horses or whatever he loves, but the fact at the end of the day is the dude balls, and there's something about him that's like so special. Just as a player and just as a teammate, I think, and I think BRF, you even made the argument. Correct me if I'm wrong on the show. You have him top 5 as a big man of all time. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
If he wins one more, if he was to win another MVP and a championship, you could definitely make that. You could make that discussion.
Right. Right now,
I think
top 10 big man, top 10 center of all time, in my opinion.
Oh, I think he already is too. I think top 5. Yeah, top 5 is definitely in the discussion. If he got the third MVP, like if he was to just say, like if he was to just come back, beat Minnesota, and then adds another championship to the resume, if you wanted to say he's already a top 5 center of all time, I don't think that's crazy.
Do you have to before we
where
I think we lost.
Yellow.
Champ.
Any of y'all have him over Moses Malone?
OG frozen.
No, you good. No, you good now, champ. Don't worry about it. Trust me. I know Jersey is terrible when it comes to technical services, though. You good.
Yeah. Any of y'all have him over Moses Malone at this point? Or
Moses.
I mean,
Malone.
the reason why I said
I have a hot take.
No, he's not. And to be honest with you, I don't think he's top 5 just yet.
Okay.
No, he's not.
Yeah, I don't think he's a top 5 center just yet, because I think Kareem, Hakeem, Shaquille O'Neal, Bill Russell, and Wilt Chamberlain alone cover those slots. And then when you get into talking about David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, that like Moses Malone, yeah, I still think he has some ways to go. He doesn't have the longevity to really create that argument. He's going on his, I want to say this is his 5th year. This is his 5th year within his prime, and those players are like 10 years plus.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So like he has his work cut out for him, but he's definitely he's French top 25 all time for me, if that makes things better.
Flash.
I think he's inside the top 10. I think he's 9. 10-9. Here's why.
Yeah.
We are in a small era of basketball. To me, this is going to be a hot take. He's Dirk 2.0.
Woo.
Wow.
Besides Embiid, what do we have as centers that are comparable today?
Comparable to what?
Jokic?
Well, but like look at the era that like Olajuwon played in and all the centers he had to go against. You know,
that was an anomaly.
It was?
Yeah.
I mean,
how many eras?
The centerpiece of everything in the NBA up until probably the 90s Bulls, when it kind of started to veer away from you wanted the big man.
Yeah, but in every era, there was always one, maybe 2 big men that stood out amongst the rest, and it was like a sizable gap. Every era except for the 90s, where you had Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal, like all of those big. And I'm sorry if I'm missing a name or two, but all of those players were playing at the same level. It just came down at that point to which one you preferred.
And that's why I think he's just barely he cracks the top, because you look at all those guys in the 80s and 90s, and then you have to throw in Kareem and Russell and Wilt.
Let's not forget about Bob McAdoo.
Right.
I just, it's just so, I mean, like I said,
let's not forget about Bob
McAdoo. I mean, there's so many, Robert Parrish. I mean, now they played a different game than what Jokic does. Like, Jokic reminds me a lot of Arvydas Sabonis. Now, we didn't really get
that's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say Arvydas Sabonis as well.
That's when he came to the NBA and went to Portland, he was past his prime. He wasn't the Arvydas Sabonis in Europe, which is sad because that's a better comparison than Dirk. And I know what Casual's saying, that there's like one or two centers that were, there's all, Kareem was Kareem and everybody else, but Kareem had, or Wilt had Bill Russell. There's nothing. I don't know. There's just nothing.
I mean, I'm trying to get your point, brother. I'm trying to see where you're coming from. If you're hanging your hat on Hakeem and them had bigs that they had to compete against, that was an anomaly because everybody else was so much among the rest. And actually, I think that's a testament to how great Jokic is. The fact that you're in a league that has a Bam Adebayo, who's one of the greatest defensive bigs we have ever seen. I don't know if that's a news flash for people, but Bam Adebayo is one of the greatest defensive bigs you will ever see in your lifetime. He's playing in a league with Sabonis, who, oddly enough, has a similar package as far as being a playmaking big to Nikola Jokic, but yet he does it so severely better that Jokic isn't even thought of. He's an afterthought. He's in the same league as Joel Embiid, a perennial MVP candidate. He's in the same league as I'm sorry, help me out here because I'm sort of blanking here. He's in the same league as some of the best players, and yet he stands out amongst the rest with a comfortable lead. That's a testament to how good Jokic is.
Well, I mean, is Jokic that much far away better than Embiid?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid is respectfully.
I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just kind of throwing out the argument. I just want to hear what you guys have to say.
Yes,
Joel Embiid is closer. Yeah, Joel Embiid is closer to Jason Tatum than he is to Nikola Jokic.
Okay.
And when you look at what Jokic does compared to Embiid, passing, the playmaking, and what he can do, he's done more with less. Like with Joel Embiid, to Casual's point, and he brought it up on my pod, you look at the numbers statistically, how Joel Embiid performs in the postseason. Now, you could look at it and say, well, that's because of also injuries as well. But with Jokic, it doesn't matter what circumstances are. You can put him with lesser talent, and still he can get the most out of it because what he can do as far as with the passing and the playmaking is concerned.
So don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't think he's great. Like, I think he's great. He's an all timer. Like, you don't win 3 MVPs without being an all timer. Like, it's not. I'm just talking about in the crack top 10 of the centers. I think the argument I just think the other guys are just greater. Now, he goes and wins a couple more titles and a couple more MVPs, then, it's going to be really hard to argue. But I just, it's really hard for me to put him, I could never put him above Olajuwon unless he just goes Jordan.
Flash, that's fair because of what, not only the offense, but also on the defense. I think not with Jokic, Olajuwon, in my opinion, has tremendous footwork, and that's because of the soccer background. I think even though people talk about Kareem with the most unstoppable move, the most unbelievable move is the dream shake, because for a guy of Hakeem's size, he has impeccable footwork and just the quickness that goes with it, and he can match it up with the defense as well. So, like with Jokic, no. Do I have Jokic over Olajuwon? No. Top 10, could you make an argument for Patrick Ewing over David Robinson?
Yes.
You could. There's nothing wrong with that, though.
Yeah, I think
you absolutely could.
Yeah, I think there's an argument there. I'm just not ready to put him. Like, I think he's 9. I think he's 9. You know, would leap if he wins another title up to 7.
Why does he have to win a title to be over David Robinson, Patrick Ewing, Moses Malone? Why does he have to win another title?
That's the reason why I asked that question, because if you really look at it, and I don't mean to cut you off, Flash. We'll come back to you, I promise. The reason why I said that, because if you really look at Moses Malone's career overall, he has 3 MVPs. He has a finals MVP and an NBA title. That's why I specifically threw his name out there, because his resume right now is matching up right next to Moses Malone, who's one of the greatest of all time. And if people really want to be honest with you, if you go back and look at that, I think it was the 82 finals. He really put a whooping on Kareem in that final. And in fact, Jared, the great Dr. Buss was thinking about trading Kareem for Moses Malone, which thankfully that didn't happen. But yeah, he was strongly considering it because he was pretty much out physicaling Kareem in that finals. And he was the main reason that Dr. J got his first NBA title. That's why I specifically threw out Moses Malone instead of Shaq, instead of maybe, I'm reaching right about now, but Alonzo Mourning or a Patrick Ewing. That's why I specifically threw his name, because out of all of those guys, he's the only one that has 3 MVPs and an NBA title at this point. I mean, Moses has more MVPs than Elijah Warren. He has more MVPs than Shaq. He has more MVPs than a lot of your favorite centers do of all time, except with the exception of Kareem and Wilt. So if you really want to look at centers of all time who got the most MVPs, you got to go Kareem, then you got to go Wilt, then you got to go Bill Russell. Then, as far as MVPs goes, then you have to go Moses Malone, then Jokic, because Jokic already has more MVPs than Shaq already.
Here's what separates those guys from Jokic. Moses Malone, 2 all-defensive team selections. Okay. Olajuwon, 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards and 5 all-defense first-team selections. Shaq, 3 all-defense second-team selections. 8 all-NBA. Well, 8. Well, that's all teams. So it's just the defense.
Yeah, Jokic is really not a defender like that.
No, he's not. And I think that's why you can't make the argument over Moses Malone.
Okay.
So because of the versatility, that's why.
Moses Malone never made an all defensive team. What?
2 all defensive team selections. I'm looking at the stats right now.
When? What year?
1 NBA title, one Finals MVP, 3 MVPs, 8 All NBA selections, 12 All Stars, and 2 all defensive team selections. Doesn't say a year.
He has 13 All Stars. Whatever you're looking at is wrong. He did not win an all defensive team.
He did not. Hold on.
No.
Let me check, guys.
I'll check to be even sure. I'll check to be even sure, because I'm almost certain.
Hey, champ. I gotta go. I gotta take care of some stuff. But as always, a pleasure, man. Being on the pod. Fellas, y'all take it easy. Y'all enjoy y'all Thursday night, man. Champ, as always,
I'll holler at you tomorrow, brother.
From Columbus, I'm from Jersey. You like a brother. You like a brother to me.
I got you, PSP. Let me see you tomorrow.
All the Sports PSP pod.
All
we got a lot of
stuff
to talk about, man. Y'all take.
All right,
all defensive first team in 1983.
83
first team in 1983 and all defensive second team in 79. Because he was averaging 17.6 rebounds, not because he was a good defender. Anybody that watched Moses Malone knows, if we're being quite honest with ourselves, And them dudes was getting all defensive, like grab because they were averaging the most defensive rebounds. That was the only way that people were actually could actually make like a assessment off of who they were. You fast forward, you put Moses Malone in any era where you actually can watch him play. That man was getting cooked routinely by the elite big men. He's not that far from Nikola Jokic defensively. So those accolades that you're pointing to, they're not that valid like you're making it out to be. They're really not. Like, when you want to talk about, okay, hold on. I'll ask you this. Is Joel Embiid a better player than Nikola Jokic?
Overall, no. Do I think Embiid's a better defensive player? Yes.
No. Is he a better player?
Overall, no.
Okay. So you understand that even though he's a much better defender than Nikola Jokic, just because you're a better defender does not then separate you from Nikola Jokic just because Nikola Jokic offensively is just like far superior, correct?
Yeah, but Moses Malone has everything else on top of it.
No, he does not. Okay, Moses Malone was literally a rebounding demon. Outside of that, scoring-wise, he was heavily dependent on his players that he was playing with. Calvin Murphy. When he went to the Philadelphia 76ers, what's my guy's name, man? Shout out to him. Mo Cheeks and Maurice Cheeks and Julius Erving to create opportunities for him. He was not creating these opportunities on himself. There was a reason why he literally he was walking through the postseason talking about some what did he say? He said 4-4-4, 4-5-4 or whatever. The whole reason, 4-4-4. The whole reason he was saying that is because he looked at everybody he was playing with, and he legit said I can literally pull up the article. He literally said, I don't have to do anything. They're just going to do it for me. That's literally what he said. Moses Malone is the definition of a team hopper, a bus rider. Nikola Jokic,
I would say he's a bus rider.
He was a bus rider. He was a bus rider.
One of the greatest players of all time. Bus rider.
He's one of the greatest.
He's a bus rider,
he's top 25 for me all time. He was a bus rider. KD is top 15 for me. He's a bus rider. Like these things are just they're just fact. It doesn't take away from how talented they were as an individual, but how their talents were used or how they choose to have their talents used. It's a different conversation. So you pointed to accolades. I don't understand why we even entertaining that conversation, because we understood from the moment that we said, that Michael Jordan was the GOAT, that accolades isn't the be all end all. Because if we're going,
I'm not saying it's the be all end all.
Okay,
I'm just saying that's
not the separator.
That's him above Jokic right now. I'm just saying.
How is that? Okay, if that's the separator, then Bill Russell having 5 more rings than Michael Jordan should make him the GOAT, correct?
No, because you're taking one piece of the argument. I'm saying that's the reason why. I'm saying that, look, on top of the MVPs, the all defense, the finals MVPs, he was averaging like at least 25 points a game for almost like almost a decade straight. Like, if you're saying that he's not an offensive player, like that's insane. Like, he's averaging 24, 25, 27, 31, 24, 22, 24, 23, 24, and on top of all defensive teams. Dude, if he was getting cooked, it was
it was 2 all defense because
Kareem was like the greatest offensive center ever.
Yeah, he was shutting them down, to his point, Casual.
Who?
To be honest with you, if you go back and look at that, I think it was the 82 finals when it was going 4-4-4. He was literally cooking Kareem. And if you go back and look at the what's the book? Because I read that book about the Showtime Lakers. Even Dr. Buss said that he was questioning Kareem when he got cooked in that finals. So the thing is this. Hey, we can't call him a bus rider, because the thing is, they got him to put them over the top as far as winning a championship in Philadelphia. Dr. J and those guys don't win a championship without Moses Malone coming to that team, because they had no rim protection in the middle and they had no big man at all. And Robert Parrish and Kareem was killing them every single year. That's primarily the reason why the Philadelphia 76ers, they went through so many years after 1977 saying, we owe you one, because they never had any good rebounding and rim protection. If you really want me to be honest about it. But the thing is, to call Moses Malone a bus rider, that's kind of, you know.
OG, just because they needed you does not then make you the bus driver of or make you the best player, or make you the better player than said person that we're talking about, which is Nikola Jokic in this situation.
Yeah.
Because Moses Malone, they needed a rim protector. They needed a person to put in the post that could be able to neutralize, or at the very least be able to make their jobs a little bit easier on protecting the paint. They went out there. Say it again.
I said you didn't even say you just said he wasn't even that great of a defensive player.
Agreed.
So, like,
he's not. Yes, he wasn't that great of a defensive player. That doesn't mean that he was a bad defensive player. He just wasn't that great for him to win all defensive teams. Because specifically, one of those defensive teams that he got, that defensive team, and I believe it was 79, was because if I check, and I will check, Willis Reed was hurt for like the majority of like the back end of the 70s. After that injury he got after they won the championship, he was never the same. He was always injured, too injured for you to truly see his impact. So like it wasn't like Moses Malone was going up against everybody healthy. And then secondly, Moses Malone, albeit a fantastic player, again, he's ahead of Nikola Jokic for me because of his longevity. But if we're just talking about them as a player, let's be honest about who Moses Malone was. Moses Malone was a great offensive player. Anthony Davis-esque, the way he benefited off of playmakers that could be able to allow him to be the play finisher that he is so great at being. An excellent rebounder. One of the greatest offensive rebounders I have ever seen when I go back and watch him play. Defensively, even though I don't think he's nearly as great as this gentleman is making him out to be, he was solid. He definitely
I'm not saying he's the greatest defensive player of all time, dude. I'm just saying, like,
you're making it seem like he has
everything else puts him above Jokic. You even said yourself, he's above Jokic. And
he's above, but it's because of longevity. It's not because of him as a player.
And everything else that goes along with it.
No accolades is in my argument for why I have Moses Malone over Nikola Jokic. It's strictly longevity. Give me 2 more years of Nikola Jokic. He don't got to win a championship. He don't got to win an MVP. He's over Moses Malone. Giannis giving 1 or 2 more years. He ain't got to win a championship. He got to win an MVP. He's over Moses Malone. They're over Patrick Ewing. It don't take no accolades for me to put them over.
I got Jokic over Patrick Ewing now. That's not crazy to say.
That's not crazy to say.
I got Jokic over Ewing now.
You got him over David Robinson too.
If you got Jokic over
you
like
can
David
make a case
Robinson as well,
bro.
it ain't that crazy to say that either. It ain't that
crazy
to say that either.
To be honest with you guys, if I can interject, the reason why I have him over because I feel like Moses was a better rim protector, and that's why I have him over there. And that's the point I think Flash is trying to make at this point. Casual, you made a greater point as well, because that offensive onslaught that Jokic is bringing, I have not seen that from anybody. The only thing I saw close to that was Arvydas Sabonis, and people don't want to give this guy credit because, he's discredited a lot throughout time. But hell, Bill Walton was a hell of a passer. Bill Walton was a hell of a passer and playmaker during his heyday and doing his MVP season with the Portland Trail Blazers, not to mention what he did with the Boston Celtics when he was 6th man of the year. They call him one of the smartest centers of all time. So for him to be discredited and people not compare him to him only because he has a certain amount of points is kind of weird, but I digress. But the thing is, the reason why I choose him over Jokic at this point, being Moses Malone, I think he's a better rim protector at this point. And that performance that he put up against Kareem, not a lot of people could do that back in them days. I'm just being real. I mean, Kareem at that point, the Showtime Lakers at that point, that's the only reason why I put him on him at this point in time. And my thing is, hey, back then, it was a whole nother ball game. Hey, defensive rebounds and things like that things of that nature is, that accounted for a hell of a lot. But hey, before we move on, guys, anybody else have anything to interject on before we move on?
OG, you having him over because you think you're a better rim protector, I'm absolutely fine with. It's just the accolades. It's the accolades part where I'm like we can't bring up accolades for our argument, but then want to say, well, nah, these accolades for this argument isn't justified because it's not just about the accolades.
I'm not.
Accolades.
My argument. I think you're misunderstanding my argument. So my argument is the fact that hold up, let me finish. Okay, I said he has these accolades, meaning he is a better defensive player and rim protector, like what Champ is saying. That's my argument on why he's still over Jokic, and why, unless Jokic improves on that, or unless he goes like all worldly with titles and MVPs, I can't put him above that. I completely agree with BRF. I think there's a great argument for him being above David Robinson and Patrick Ewing. Absolutely. But it's the accolades because he's a better defensive player. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying
is Moses Malone over David Robinson for you?
Yeah, he is.
Dude.
Is Moses Malone over Julius Erving for you?
We're talking about centers, casual. That's not fair.
No. I'm just asking. I'm trying to get a feel for like exactly where. Well, I'm sorry. You're right. You're absolutely right.
We're talking about centers, man. That's not fair, casual.
You're absolutely right. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. So if you would have brought up Patrick Ewing or Alonzo Mourning or somebody like that, that would have been a whole nother argument. But to bring up a person outside of that position is not a fair argument. We were talking about forwards, and you said is Pippen better than Julius Erving? That's a valid argument. To ask is Moses Malone better than Julius Erving? That's not a fair argument, because, like I said, as great as Julius was, he didn't get one until Moses. But the thing was, in my humble opinion, and the thing that I think that, and both you guys are right in your own right, let me be clear. But on my side, and I think what Flash is trying to say, hey, that rim protection as well as your offensive presence accounts for a lot. You might be an offensive onslaught that can make plays out of the but you're not able to play any defense, which is really a little bit what's hurting this team at this point. You're not able to play that defense. You're not able to play 40 minutes of hell and do things of that nature, like a Moses Malone is doing. So I have to be fair with that.
But
go ahead,
OG, is it not fair to say that Moses wasn't going to win a championship without Julius Erving?
I mean, he made it to the finals. Unfortunately, you ran into Larry Bird.
Julius Erving had to deal with Larry Bird before he got to the finals.
You ran into Larry Bird, and the only thing you had on that team when you was on Houston was Calvin Murphy. You didn't have the complete onslaught in order to beat a Boston Celtics. You had Bird, McHale, DJ Johnson, Danny Ainge. You had all of those guys. You don't have he didn't have the offensive onslaught in order to beat those guys.
I understand Moses' part, but like Julius Erving didn't have the pieces to stop. Nobody had the pieces in the early 80s to stop not the early, but like the mid 80s to stop the Celtics around that time. The Celtics were just that damn good. But not the mid 80s, but the early 80s. But like even when you're looking at like a series like against Seattle, like as much as we're talking about like Jokic's flaw as his grand flaw as a defensive player, are we not going to sit here and act like Moses Malone didn't have a significant flaw when it came to his playmaking ability or his passing ability out of the post?
Yeah, and you were talking about how one of the big flaws that they were saying about Nikola Jokic is his defense. One of the biggest, New York Times, they were going up against. It was 80. I want to say it was 81. They had made it all the way to the finals, and literally New York Times had came out with a whole article talking about this Celtics team versus the Houston Rockets, and they were saying literally all Boston had to do was just double Moses Malone, and they had him because Moses wasn't going to pass the ball. He was only going to look to score.
And true enough, going into that series, they did exactly that, and right on timing, Moses Malone kept trying to go over on like the bigs of the Celtics because he felt like he was just that dominant. I'm trying to remember the bigs that were there around the time for the Celtics. I know for a fact
Parrish,
Robert Parrish was there. Kevin McHale was there as well. But there was one more person that was playing the 4. Cedric Maxwell. I'm sorry.
Yes,
Cedric
Maxwell. Yeah.
Yes. And they were just sending a double team over towards him routinely, and right on cue, he was not passing the ball out of the post, even if he does not have the requisite pieces for to justify him passing the ball.
Which
right?
he did.
Like let's not say all of that because Robert Reed was actually giving him like very meaningful help. Mike Dunleavy was giving him floor spacing as well in a game where they weren't that much of a floor spacer. Tom Henderson, Billy Paultz, like let's not act like nobody was helping him. Like it wasn't like he wasn't getting no help. It's just he, as a personal flaw, did not trust his teammates that much. Not a big problem.
That's true, but I talking about a different era of basketball.
But like that's why. Oh, my bad, Flash. I'm sorry.
Era of basketball, though. It's this era of basketball that we're talking about, where literally rim protection is like the premium. You cannot find rim protection.
But you're talking about spacing. Like there's really no like spacing on the floor when it came to 70s, 80s, and 90s. Then we're getting a little dark. Like that wasn't the game back then. So now I agree. I will agree with you 100% that his ability to create offense or playmaking ability for surrounding talent was not on the level of what Jokic is. Absolutely not. 100% agree. Absolutely. I can also argue that wasn't the game back then either. That wasn't how you played the game.
And I can also, but you would also agree that floor spaces around that time was not hanging around the 3-point line. They were actually in the mid range because the mid range was as valuable as the 3 is now, correct?
Yes.
So for you not to pass out of the double team for a mid range, which at that time was valued as more efficient than as efficient as the 3-point line is today, and you're not utilizing that nearly as much as you should, that is a glaring flaw, similar to the glaring flaw that's being exposed right now with Nikola Jokic's rim protection. Is that
just throwing this argument out there, is that a Malone problem or was that a coaching scheme problem?
That is a Malone problem when as a coach, I'm setting the table for you. And all you have to do is literally just take advantage of the advantage that I'm giving you. There's literally a play. You go back and you watch even that 76ers team with Mo Cheeks and what's my guy's name? Kobe Bryant's dad.
Kobe Bryant and Doug Collins on that team.
Not just Doug Collins. There was one more. It was Billy Cunningham. Cunningham. You had Julius Erving. You had Daryl Dawkins. You had pieces that were able to knock down that 10 to 12 footer, and Moses Malone would catch the ball, and he would get in the works of posting up. And even though he would look to his right over his shoulder, and he would see Julius Erving literally sitting in the mid-range, ready to catch the ball so that he could not even shoot the mid-range, but he could attack so that he could dunk the ball because that was Julius Erving's game. And he still went about his business of taking a contested floater, not a floater, but a contested hook shot over the defense, even though that was like that was a chance for him to kick that out for an easy bucket. Those are the flaws in Moses Malone's game that, albeit did not get exposed in some of those experiences because he was on a much better team. If you go back and you watch him in Houston, where you pretty much have to play like flawless offensive basketball, that was the worst part of his game. Similar to how Nikola Jokic in every other aspect, rebounding, scoring the ball, passing the ball, playing off ball, setting screens. Defense is it's the worst thing that's on his resume as far as his game. Yeah. They're 1-1. They're 1-1.
Yeah. And to your point, you got to read the rest of that article too, because I know what you're talking about, because remember what was the rest of that article in the New York Times as well before we move on. I can bring 4 guys out of Petersburg and still win this series. And I think that's what played a role in him losing that series against the Boston Celtics as well. Because remember what Cornbread Maxwell told him? He said, look like you better go get them damn boys from Petersburg because these guys out here ain't finna help you. So to your point, Casual, I get what you're saying. Because, hey, I go back and I watch that game at least a couple times a year. But, hey, I forgot to do this, man. I'll be remiss if I do this. We got Brandon from the block in the building, man. Hey, hell of a show every Monday and Wednesday. Football on Monday, basketball on Wednesday. How you doing, Brandon?
Doing good, straight. You know.
Hey, man, so what do you think is Jokic's legacy, if you will, bro, man?
His legacy. Oh, man. Well, he's getting cooked right now. Well, he's getting embarrassed right now. But, you know, Jokic is top 20 all time. I think he's in there. You know, 3 MVPs is absolutely insane in 4 years. So, and like we know he's bad. He's mid defensively, but his playmaking is elite, helping his team. The Denver Nuggets win games, and his impact is insane as well. And he's in a great score. So, yeah.
BRF.
I definitely think he's already a top 10 center of all time. I definitely think he's already top 10 of all time. Yeah, like we were talking about. I mean, because I'm like my top 5 is my top 5 is Kareem, Hakeem, Shaq, Wilt, Bill Russell, and then like 6 through 10 is almost really like a crapshoot. Because if you want to, I mean, you know, David, I guess, you know, David Robinson, Moses Malone. I feel like I think Ewing's in my top 10. You can really make a strong case for Jokic being already better than David Robinson and Patrick Ewing at this point in his career. You can make a case. I mean, it's not a ridiculous thing to say. Because I mean, albeit because my thing is with the accolades and championship thing, like y'all talking about with the whole like it's a value thing, and it's value that you bring to the team. Because I feel like I feel like if you're looking at it if you're gonna look at it, like he brought up the whole Julius Erving thing, even though y'all talking about centers. I feel like from a positionless standpoint, all time in the game of basketball, I feel Julius Erving is a better player than Moses Malone from a positionless standpoint. If you're talking about all-time players, I'm taking Julius Erving over Moses Malone from a positionless standpoint. I just feel like those teams, Moses Malone added the value that they needed to finally get over the hump to win a championship. Doesn't necessarily make him like better player per se, but it added the value that they needed to get over the hump because that was the only thing those teams were missing. But going back to the Jokic point, I feel like his offensive talent is just from the center position. It's just something like we really haven't seen like that, just from a standpoint of being able to operate, being able to set up his teammates, being a center, being able to score from all levels. And then one of the things we don't even talk about with Jokic is his rebounding and his ability to rebound and he's a walking triple double. Like any game, he could go out there, bust out a triple double, like it's clockwork, like it's just easy for him. So just what he brings to the table from the center position is just something that's rare, and we just haven't really we haven't really seen his all around his repertoire being able to do what he can do on a nightly basis. His legacy is, I mean, he's already kind of building a case for being like, if you want to talk about offensive players in the history of the league, like just he's making a serious case, just being one of those rare commodities of already being one of the greatest offensive players of all time.
Yeah.
Even though from my perspective, I want more of a, like a few more years just to see him operate like this at an elite level. Just what we've already seen from him in this time frame, being in his prime and being at this high level of being an elite offensive player is just rare. And I think his legacy is just. I think you're gonna start seeing. Well, teams are going to hope for this more coming out of college. Scouting out in Europe. They're gonna try to find some blessing from God to be able to get a center to be able to operate at the level of a Nikola Jokic, because it's going to be rare. And when you have stuff like that, that's rare. Teams are always going to go out and try to find it. So you're probably going to start seeing a little more of that as far as like just the all-around game from the offensive perspective from the center position. And I mean, we could talk about his defense, but honestly, at the end of the day, I feel like his skill offensively, it kind of, even though Minnesota is exposing his defense, they are definitely exposing his defense. I think the one thing that he is seeing with the Minnesota Timberwolves that he hasn't seen from other matchups these last few years in the playoffs is Minnesota's ability. It's just matchup basketball. It's being able to put a body on a body and everybody having size and being able to contain them. But even still, man, Jokic's legacy is just that of being. I feel like he's already a top 10 center of all time. I don't think it's a ridiculous thing to say. I have him in that. You can make a case for him. I can make a case for him 7, 8 all time already. I can make a case for him there.
All right. Hey, man, speaking of legacies, man, I have to do this, man, real quick. Now, arguably, the greatest of all time is Michael Jordan. That's another debate for another day who the GOAT is, but we'll just stick with Mike at this point. We'll save that GOAT debate for another day, but arguably the greatest player of all time in basketball history is Michael Jordan. And throughout history, we've seen so many people get compared to him. Hell, Casual Flash, all you guys, and even you, BRF, you could attest to this. Remember when Harold Miner got compared to Michael Jordan? Do y'all remember?
Boy, don't even get me started on Harold Miner, bro.
Making it seem like I'm old enough to actually remember that is crazy. But yeah, I did read an article about that. That was nasty work because he was nothing like it.
Remember when Harold Miner
they literally called that man Baby Jordan. I'm like, man, don't no.
Off a dunk contest. That's it.
That's it.
That was it. That was the only reason they did that.
I'm sorry, I can't because I remember that right off because everybody was talking about he's the next Michael Jordan, Harold Miner. So that brings me to my next question, and we'll set the tone with you, Flash. Does the NBA and sports fan have a bad habit of building players too early as the next Michael Jordan?
I think we have a problem in sports in general where we build players as the next Michael Jordan or the next GOAT. We throw those terms around so flimsily now that it means nothing. I mean, that we kind of live in that culture. I think Casual brought it back brought it up earlier about living in the moment. Look, that's what we do. We live in an internet era, 24-hour news cycle, internet, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, where everybody's got a silly, stupid take. And look, I think part of the problem that we've always wanted that next Michael Jordan, because this is why, and I don't want to start the argument of who's the GOAT, but when it comes to Jordan and what he was in the 90s, or like in the 80s and the 90s, we've never seen something like that, and I don't think we ever will. And I think there's just that wanting to see that. And now you're seeing that with Anthony Edwards, like, well, maybe he's one of Jordan's, random children. And he just you're just seeing stuff like this. And it's just like, and then people are editing videos and make look, he dunks like him. Yeah, sure. Cause what? Fine. Let him be his own guy. Why does he have to be another Michael Jordan? Why does even LeBron? I don't want to compare LeBron to Jordan. I mean, I know that's what we do. We just did it with Moses Malone and Jokic. I get it, but it's like, why can't he just be his own thing? Why are we so quick as a society? I mean, I think it's part of our culture now. But why are we so quick to do this? I mean, I remember for years, Brady had to fight off the GOAT argument. I remember for a hot minute, it was like, well, maybe Rodgers is the GOAT and not Brady. And it's just like, why are we even having this argument? And then for a hot minute, Mahomes is like, he's the trajectory's possibly there. But we had people saying, like, after he won last, well, he's the GOAT. And it's just like, do we just forget what Montana did at all? And we just throw around these terms so easily now that they mean nothing. And it really bothers me. We're such a knee-jerk reaction society now that we don't really stop and think at all. I mean, and it's not just society in general. I think teams do it. Look at the Lakers. They can't even hold on to a coach for more than a year. Look at the Bucks. Look at what my Milwaukee Bucks did. We won a title finally, the first one since Kareem. And because our star got injured for like half the series and we lost, we got rid of the coach, the one that won us the title. And then we had another guy and we just tossed him for Doc Rivers, which don't get me started on that. I just think it's a general overall problem. I know I'm kind of taking the topic a little bit sideways, but I think it's just a general overall problem where we want, Vince Carter was the next Michael Jordan. Kobe was the next Michael Jordan. Harold Miner was the next Michael Jordan. Tracy McGrady for a hot second was supposed to be the next Michael Jordan. There will never be another Michael Jordan, ever.
Let's not forget when they start comparing Michael Finley to Michael Jordan, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah, that happened too.
Casual or expert, my bad.
Yes. I am not expert. Stop it. By the way, OG, you lucky I love you because I should have brought out what I should have brought out was the homework that I finished doing on the 60s and 70s and how many of the talent was over there in the ABA. And so players like Moses Malone, like Bill Russell, like Will Chamberlain was able to thrive in a league that was limited because they had majority of the talent over there in ABA. But I'm not going to do that because I love you. But just know I spared you. Anyway,
that's why I call you expert right there. That's why.
All right. Okay. All right now. All right. Anyway, so I agree with like Flash's point. I appreciate that angle that you went with. But I think we look for the next big thing for the same reason we called Michael Jordan the GOAT after his third season. When it comes to stars and stardom, people want to always be the first to say, I found him. You know what I'm saying? And so, especially when it comes to social media, that's literally what everything is. It's the first person to get the take off, right? You know what I'm saying? When you see somebody say something that's crazy at first, but then it pans out, you look at it and you say, how did I not see that coming? And so you ultimately start to feed yourself crazy take after crazy take, just so you could be the first one to say it. And when it does, or if it does pan out, you can say I was the one that said that first. And so I think when it comes to Anthony Edwards, bro, I think people want him to be so great, so bad that they're willing to really put him in positions that arguably is reminiscent to Kevin Durant more than like LeBron James to me, because I don't think Anthony Edwards even realizes the type of pressure that NBA fans or the NBA community is putting on him to have to be successful. Like the basically what they're saying right now is if Anthony Edwards makes it to the finals, he has to win. Right? Because if he doesn't win, then he's a failure because we compared him to Michael Jordan. And so I feel like it's an unfair thing. And that's why I agree with you there, and I like the angle that you went. But to answer your question, I think the reason why they do this is because everybody wants to be the first.
Frank.
What I said, y'all definitely made some good points. I don't know. I've never understood why they always wanted to do that. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Even going back to LeBron James, Sports Illustrated, the chosen one. I'm like, bro, I ain't even gotten to the NBA yet. And y'all already calling this dude the chosen one? Like, can we let him get there first? Can we let him play some years? Can we see how his game develops when he get there? It's like, I don't know. It's like society nowadays just wants to, like, I don't know. It's like, this is what I'll say to that. Each individual era of basketball needs to be appreciated for what it was, and how it helped the evolution of the game. As opposed, it's just like, I don't know. I'm wanting to make this make sense. It's like,
you're making sense. Yeah, I know.
it's like it's like the talent today. I mean, I get it. It's like it's like the greatest that has ever been in basketball, as far as just the overall depth of just, like, how many really good players are in the league today. But it's like, and so it's like, they talk of this era talk about, like, well, Jordan didn't have the level of competition that Bron has, and da 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 da, and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, we can't really, like, that's not their fault. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you play who's in front of you. Your competition is who's there. I mean, that's not their fault. They can't go back and be like, hey, put me in this area with these players, and I want to see how I do. I mean, it's like, you play who you play, and you go against who you go against. And yeah, and like, to an extent, I think, like, to an extent, it's like, I don't like social media and analysts and reporters and news journalists. I don't like them putting so much immense pressure on these players, comparing them to this person and comparing them. And honestly, you're right. Michael Jordan is probably the one they always go to, just because it's just like, it's like that. It's like a player comes in and he shows a little bit of that, that killer mentality, that killer instinct, and it's just like, bam, there he is right there. He was like, Stephen A. Smith talking about what Anthony Edwards did to Phoenix, reminding him of what Mike did in Game 2 of the '92 of the finals against the Portland Trail Blazers. And I'm just like, bro, let Ant be Ant. Let Ant be Ant. Cause that's the thing, though. Like, it's just, we need to start letting these players just kind of grow and develop and become their own player, because you never know what their career is going to entail when it finishes. I mean, they could ultimately grow to be better, but it's like, we won't know that until they get to that level. That's why it's like, it always annoys me. Like, the GOAT debate, to a point, really annoyed me. Like, I felt one of my introductions to TikTok was going up against what was the dude's name? I think it was Boom. He was always trying to find a way to, like, it was all he tried. And the thing, and I give him props, because he made sense in his argument. He made sense in his arguments when it was like trying to argue against Michael Jordan being the GOAT. But then it's like, it was part of my introduction, because it was like, he would make these arguments, but then I could find little stuff and nitpick him and be like, you're gonna go here, but what about here? And I did like 3 or 4 videos on him, and that was kind of like my introduction to making content or whatnot. And it's just like, at the end of the day, let these players do their thing and let them become their own players, because ultimately, at the end of the day, that's ultimately what it's about for them. They want to carve their own niche. They want to carve their own legacy. It's always annoyed me. I mean, it's great. They have these attributes that you can compare to the all-time greats. That's great, but don't we just let them grow to be their own player at some point? It's always annoyed me. It's always annoyed me personally.
But we've never done that, though. We've, like, that throughout NBA history, the NBA community has never done that. We didn't do that. We didn't do that with Wilt Chamberlain. We didn't do that with Kareem. We did not do that with Bill Russell. We didn't do it with Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. We didn't do it with Michael Jordan. We didn't do it with LeBron James or Kobe Bryant. We didn't do it with Shaquille O'Neal as far as being one of the greatest bigs of all time. They were ready to give him, they were calling him the greatest big of all time before he won his first championship because they felt he was that good. Like, we don't do that throughout NBA history. So, like, it's like, yeah, is it unfair to a certain degree? No, because we can't help it as humans to be prisoners of the moment. Every success, every accolade, every key moment that you witness forces you to change your mind on the fly to where you do have the tendency to say outlandish things like, oh, that spin around jumper that Anthony Edwards hit, man, that's Michael Jordan-esque. You know what I'm saying? Like, as NBA fans, that's the allure of being an NBA fan. You're watching greatness as it's happening, and it's up to you to ultimately, subjectively figure out where you want to put him. Who are you putting him up against? Who is he better than? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's always what it's been, and it's what it's always going to be.
Right.
But those were also eras with absolutely no social media at all. And nowadays we have social media and like decades and decades and decades of footage to go off of now, as opposed to then. I mean, you couldn't really then because the outlets weren't there as they are now.
Yeah,
I agree.
and two, oh, I'm sorry, Casual. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say I agree. That's a great point.
And the thing is, I think this. I think they need to learn from the great Grant Hill. Grant Hill, great Duke player, Hall of Famer, All-Star. Stop saying that I'm the next Michael Jordan, and acknowledge that I'm the first me. But Brandon, go ahead.
Okay, so I get what everybody's saying, and I agree, but I just want to add something with like there's I'm trying to explain it. There's gonna be players like that's going to be better than you, like in a certain time. Like we know it can happen. Like for prime example, like Patrick Mahomes, people saying that he's up there with Brady now because of the rings. Like and he doing it in less time. So, like I don't agree with that. I think Mahomes great too, but like another example is like with Zion Williamson. People want to compare him to LeBron James. I thought that was straight blasphemy. This dude can't even stay on the court. He can't even stay on the court. So yeah, I think they should just stop and just let them be their own selves.
I agree, and like I said, man, like I hate to quote someone over and over again, but yeah, when Grant Hill came out in 96, I think, and he said, "Hey, stop building me up to be the next someone else, and let me be the first me." And when you really look back at his game was nothing like Michael Jordan. His game was more comparable than LeBron before even LeBron came along. So I think that people are building these guys up way too strong. Hell, a guy out of nowhere have a 30-point game, and all of a sudden they pull up a Michael Jordan stat out of nowhere. I mean, literally, I've seen some of these commentators and social media guys pull some out their buttocks. I mean, out of nowhere. It's just, oh, yeah, the only player to score when he was 19. Like, damn, Jordan wasn't even in the league when he was 19. He was in college. So you see people come up. No, you're laughing, but you've seen it. I mean,
because you're making a point.
You've seen it. It's like,
I saw a stat line when Kay Cunningham was a rookie that he was the first rookie since Michael Jordan to average, I think it was like not to average, to score 38-8 with 2 steals in a single game. And I'm like, that is such a specific fucking stat. That I like, you can't. He's the first guard since Michael Jordan to do that, and I'm like, that is such a specific stat to choose to pick. But I do want to say this, even though the media, and this is the part where you hear me praise this all the time. This is the part where you, myself, Sports PSP, BRF Sports. I don't want to get your name wrong. brother.
Yeah.
Brandon, all of the community, the wonderful community that we're building. That's the part where we come in, because whereas the media is pointing out those stats and those weird stats, we are wise enough. We're growing wiser as a basketball community to be able to say that's a bullshit stat.
Yeah.
Just because that stat may be true, that's a weird fact. But even though that is a fact, that is not the full context of who that player is. That is an anomaly. If a player averaged 38 and 8 and they say he's the first player since LeBron James to do that, but that player typically is not a good playmaker. He just had a crazy assist game. We're intelligent to be able to point that out in 2024. That's the part where I do think we do need to give credit to the newer generation. We may not be wiser, but we damn sure are smart enough to not make the same mistakes that the older generation used to make when they used to see those stats, because you'll see those same stats that the younger generation scoffs at and say those are ESPN stats. That is a joke that's going around in the basketball community. We say, oh, that's such an ESPN stat. Those are the same stats that the older generation will hang their hats on as reasons why X player is better than X player.
I mean, and to your credit and to your point, and I know people know this name now, LeBradford Smith, which we ain't never heard of before nor since that game, had 38 points in the game, and they compared him to Michael Jordan just because he played against him, and Jordan had a bad game. But I digress. Flash, did you go already, bro?
Over the
the
Jordan thing? Yeah, I was the first to go.
All right, look, Casual, I know you don't cover the NFL, man, but it's always a pleasure to have you, man. Your in-depth knowledge is always a plus.
I've never said it on this platform.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to peace out because I don't know a damn thing about football. But as I would say on Sports PSP show, anything OG says, I agree with. All right, y'all, man. I love y'all, man. Hey, I'm sorry, Flash. Next time I come on, bro, we gotta have another dialogue, man. That was fantastic talk. I appreciate you. OG, you already know what it is. Anytime you need me, you know what to do. All right,
I got you.
Talk to y'all later.
All right, brother.
All right, bro.
Hell of a dialogue from Casual, one of the best sports analysts as far as the NBA is concerned you're ever going to see. His knowledge is great. Mm-hmm. I mean, got to give credit where credit is due. But we have to move forward from that basketball to that pigskin. Hey, man, ain't nothing like that football, man. Hey, especially us down here down south, man.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, and one thing I wanted to touch on real quick, man, before we get into all of it is the new helmet rule. Now, as you already know, all of the new helmet rules just came out a couple of weeks ago where the guys can wear the Guardian helmets. And if y'all don't know what the Guardian helmets are, that is the padding above the helmet that you usually wear in practice. So they're allowing the guys to wear that in the games now. Excuse me for stuttering. And my humble opinion about it, you know, I try to evolve with the times. I'm just going to be very, very honest with you. I'm not this old school, you know, tough as nails type of guy. I'm just being real. Hey, if it's going to protect the players and have them being in the league longer, if it's going to improve their quality of life after the game, and if it's going to stop someone from getting their skull split open as far as during the game, I'm all for it. At the same time, a lot of people are going to say, well, that's just like saying, hey, you can't go into this boxing match saying that you can't throw a right hook. I know a lot of people are going to say that, but, you know, the game has changed. The game has changed. It's more safety driven. Hey, they have a lot of history of concussions is going on. And if they don't do something, it's going to get progressively worse. Now, do I think that this going to hinder? This is another ploy to hinder the defense? Yes. This is going to, I believe that eventually they're going to bring up eventually when the safety rule comes in or a piece of safety equipment comes in, eventually another rule is going to come in hindering the defense. Watch and see. If they even touch that damn pad, it's gonna eventually turn into a 15-yard penalty on the play. But as far as the Guardian pads are concerned, the Guardian helmets are concerned, I'm all about the safety of the players, man. You're not going to see me be this guy, and that's no knock to nobody else before we move on. That's no knock to nobody else. But you're not going to see me be the old school guy saying, hey, football's getting softer. Hey, man, if you really want to be honest with you, everything has gotten progressively watered down as time has went along. I mean, it's putting guys in a better situation in order to make sure that, hey, you don't have to go through some of the things that these older players are going through right now. Because as a person right now, I don't want to see Derrick Henry per se. And I'm just throwing out a random name. I don't want to see a Derrick Henry, one of the greatest running backs in modern day times, go through what Mike Webster went through later on in his life, or to go through what Harry Carson went through, to go through what Jim McMahon went through, to go through what a Dave Dorson went through, to go through anything of how those old school players went through after they eventually left the game. There was a high rate of suicide, high rate of depression. A lot of those guys, although they made millions, didn't have any money because they ran through it as far as medical bills was concerned, trying to figure out what was wrong with their brain and everything like that. I don't want to see that happen to some of these young men. So that's why I'm all for the Guardian helmets. But, hey, there's a lot of people who say, I beg to differ. They should stick with what they have now. But that is why we have a panel out so we can have a different opinions. Flash, we'll start off with you, brother.
Okay, so I saw your video on TikTok, and you kind of touched on the same points here. So I'm a little bit more of an old school guy. But I have a different twist on it. I mean, I could go on and on about how the game's going to change and it's going to evolve into flag football, and I think at some point it's going to get to that point, and then and then you won't even be able to compare eras because you're going to take away the essence of what the game truly is, and that's kind of my point. Is I would support this more if the players actually want to wear this. So whether it be the NFL, the NFL itself as an entity goes on and on about player safety. We got to make the players safer. And it's just a bunch of hogwash. It's garbage. Because if that was true, they wouldn't have added an extra game. And now they're talking about adding another game to make it 18 games. Okay? And the players themselves come out, go on the Pat McAfee show when JJ Watt's on there, or Aaron Rodgers is on there, or the Joe Rogan show, or whatever. And they're all talking about, can we get all the players like, can we just play football, please? Can we hit people? Are we allowed to do that anymore? So it's like, look, I fully 100% agree that we should take care of the players after they have gone and done and retired. And we shouldn't let them go down this rabbit hole of CTE or whatever. Like, another name was, Junior Seau was another one that suffered as well. But at some point, when the NFL is coming out and saying we care for your safety, but they're most of their actions aren't really following that up, and then the rules that they're making don't really make any sense whatsoever, and you actually are taking away from the game. And then the players are the ones that are sacrificing their bodies, and they're like, hey, and they're going, let us sacrifice our bodies. I don't want to hear anything about player safety anymore, because I just don't. If the players themselves don't want to take it seriously, I shouldn't say maybe take it seriously is a wrong term route. But if they want to play football, let them play. There's consequences to your choices and actions. So it's like, all right, then let's keep the game the way it is. Let's keep the purity of it. Football is a violent sport. And when you continue to take away from that violence, I think it takes away from the game itself. You can't make boxing a safer sport. You can't make UFC a safer sport. Like, it just is what it is. It's just one of those games that's violent. I'm not saying that I want these guys to like die on the field or die, not remembering who, anything they accomplished. Right? It's not. It's just like, it's like the person that's sitting outside the building, chain smoking. They go, man, I should really quit smoking. And they just keep going. And it's just like, well, I'm not going to support you. You're not even trying to quit smoking. So that's kind of my viewpoint. If the players want to play football, then let them play football. But then I don't want to hear about the players crying a lot later. Well, you don't care about our safety. That's kind of I just see everybody's talking out of two sides of their mouth, and just be consistent with it. If you want a safer game and closer to flag football, all right, then just acknowledge that and say we're going that route. And I want to hear that out of the players themselves too. And then, like I said, you got the NFL that's saying, "Hey, you know what? We want a safer game. We want to make it good for all the mommies that bring fun to games and stuff, and then turn on the games now." That's part of it. And it's like, but then they're adding more games. So, and taking away a preseason game doesn't do anything because most of the starters don't play in those games anyways.
That's
So,
right.
You're just adding more revenue. It's about money. So that's my spiel on it.
Frank?
I saw. Yeah, I remember when the story first broke, and I saw it, and I got to thinking about it a little bit. I'm like, my biggest thing with the NFL nowadays is really the defense and defensive players, and how it's like. I don't like how the game nowadays really alters how they play. It's like nowadays it's like you make it like if you can make a good play on the ball, you get a penalty, and it's like what are the defensive players to do nowadays? I do like the idea of the Guardian helmets being used, but it's just my thing is like. At the end, we grew up. I mean, me being 38 years old, we grew up when the old adage, defense wins championships. I mean, that was the adage. I mean, that was the motto. I mean, regardless of how good your offense was, you run into a top 5 defense in a big game, they're gonna scheme against you and they're gonna beat you. I mean, it's just how we grew up during that time frame. Like a great example was like the 02 the Super Bowl after the 02 season, Oakland and Tampa. Everybody was raving about Oakland's offense and how great they was, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers put on one of the greatest Super Bowl defensive performances in the history of the game. I want to be able to see the defensive side of the ball get a little leverage back and be able to go out and have fun and be able to play the way they need to play in order to succeed, make their money, feed their families. And I want them to, I want them to be able to enjoy that after football. But while they're playing it, they deserve to get the full enjoyment out of the game like the offensive players are nowadays, because everything is so tailored to the offense nowadays. So I feel like if the Guardian helmets can allow the defensive players to gain a little leverage back to be able to go out and play without the worrying of if I make this hit wrong, am I gonna hurt this dude or hurt this dude? It's just, oh gosh, it's just such a touchy subject. Me being a guy who loves the defensive side of the ball, I just want to see them be able to. I want them to be able to go out there and have fun and still be able to, go out there and make plays too. So, I guess my point is, if this allows the defense to go out there and play a little more freely without having to worry about penalties as much, I'm here for it. Because at the end of the day, for me, it's a two-way street for me. I love watching the offense going out there 25, 26, 27 points per game. But every now and then, I like a team that can go out and hold somebody to 10, 11, 12 points, because it's just the essence of the game. It's the beauty of the game from both sides of the ball. So I just feel like as long as it's allowing the defense to kind of catch up a little bit, still be safe, but yet can go out there and actually make plays without worrying about, if I missed it, if I don't make this play, I'm going to get cussed out by my coach or I'm going to get this penalty. I guess that's what it's about for me.
Brandon?
Man, listen. I know it's all about healthy, being healthy and stuff like that, being safe. I get that. But I ain't gonna hold you. What is this? What we can't even hit no more? This ain't football. We don't like this ain't the football I know. You get what I'm saying? And like, what's this flag football? I don't even think it's flag football because you barely can touch them now. Like you can't do nothing. And then secondly, the helmets to me they ugly. They should not wear them. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna put it out there. They ugly.
I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, they ugly. It makes no
That's
sense.
why I don't think they're gonna wear them.
Yeah, they shouldn't wear them. It's ugly. But I get they want to be safe and stuff like that. But uh, I don't like it.
They do look space age. I mean, I ain't gonna hold you.
Yeah, they look like sponge. They're like sponges.
It looks funny, and it just looks funny. And then I don't know if they're gonna put the logos on them. Like it's gonna take away from the actual logo on the helmet. So it's like,
God!
Yeah.
Oh my God!
But to kind of to Brandon's point, is this football like we go back to some of the players that we all grew up with. Like we're never going to see another Ray Lewis again.
No.
Nope.
That's basically outlawed. We're not going to see a Ryan Clark again or a Ronnie Lott again. We're not going to see that anymore. I want to see that.
Mm-hmm. Every big hit, they gonna be calling flags every single time. Like I can see it right now. Any big hit.
Oh, my bad, Brandon. My apologies. Go ahead. I have to say this, man. I really do. And I think you guys know what I'm about to say. Roger Goodell, NFL, if y'all are really serious about player safety, take away that damn Thursday night game.
Should take away the preseason games.
I mean, but those Thursday night games in particular, it's kind of like a boxer having to box a week later, 2 weeks later, after he just got out of another fight. That's equivalent of an NBA player playing 2 back-to-backs. So if you're really serious about that, okay, that's cool. But take out that damn Thursday night game so I don't have to play Sunday, come back into the meeting room on Monday, whether I won or lost, turn back around and get my ass knocked the hell out again on Thursday. I normally don't curse on this platform, but that's just being real. Because we can all agree that Thursday night game, we're not seeing teams at their best at that point. No matter
Thursday night game is trash.
But that's the point, though. But
no matter if it's at the beginning of the season or the middle of the damn season. If you're really serious about player safety, Roger Goodell, and I'm talking to you when I say this, but take away that damn Thursday night game and call it like it is. Because hell, I'm seeing more players get hurt in that game than anything. We've already seen, that Thursday night game only been around a few years, and we've already seen 2 of the greatest tragedies, arguably in NFL history. We saw DeMar Hamlin really fall out on the field. So take away that game, and if you're gonna have a game like that, make sure all the games are on Sunday, so these players can have adequate rest, and make sure you put the correct doctors in every team facility, so they can get correctly diagnosed. Because we've seen too many guys like Tyrod Taylor who had a damn needle stuck in his lung and pinched a nerve in his lung and nearly killed it. So if you're really, really serious about player safety, stop adding them damn games, take away that Thursday night game, and do it correctly.
Cool.
You can't say I care about player safety. That's just like somebody say, hey Steph, I care about your safety, but I want you to go outside and do a roofing job in the middle of a lightning storm.
The hell that's what it is, though. It is. That's what drives me nuts. Is this like you don't care about player safety? Like you don't. You can sit here all day and you're going to sit here and add more games. And it was weird though. It was like when they were going to add a 17th game, there was a little bit of pushback from the players, and then it all went away. It's just because it's about money. So, look, I'm 100% agree. Like, as much as I love Thursday football, like I love the fact that all week I get to watch football, except for Wednesdays essentially and Fridays. Yeah, if you're serious about it, you're absolutely right, Chan. 100%, 110%. You're absolutely right.
Take away that Thursday night game.
Take away that Thursday night game. Go back down to 16 games. Now, I'm a little bit of an old school. I'm a football coach, so I'm big on the preseason games. I think they should be there. I want to see the young players that don't get a chance to shine. Those are their chance. That's their chance to shine under the bright lights. And I think I think when we had 3 or 4 games, or we used to have 4, I think those should be there for those players that are trying to earn roster spots. That's just me, but I know they don't produce revenue. It's why they're not taking away preseason games because they're concerned about player safety. They're taking away those games because nobody wants. I'm a Packers season ticket holder. Nobody wants to pay full price for tickets to go to a game and not see the starters play. And 2, those games don't produce any revenue.
Exactly. And
that's why they're taking those away. And if you think it's about player safety, I'm sorry. I'm trying to sell you I'm trying to sell you the bridge in Baltimore right now.
Yeah.
So,
too soon. Too
sorry.
soon. Too soon.
You should have said Brooklyn. At least that was still standing up, man.
I'm sorry.
God, boy, I went from Sport PSP podcast to this, boy, just zingers, baby, zingers. Oh,
Too soon. Too soon, man. Too soon.
It's been a couple weeks.
You gotta wait at least 6 months. Let it get.
Sorry, my bad.
I'm trying my best to be serious, but
boy, I need to keep a joke. I need to keep a drum joke, like a sound or something. Somebody just boom, just hit in the background, like man.
hit that Jay Leno, Kevin Newbanks on the. But hey, if you really care about player safety, NFL, take away that damn Thursday night game. Again, take away that damn Thursday night game. And stop pretending like you care, because like I said, you doing that is equivalent to a boxer having a box less than a month later and he just fought Jake LaMotta. If you don't know who Jake LaMotta is, Google him. That was one of the most dangerous fighters in history. But earlier in the show, we was talking about GOAT talk. We was talking about GOAT implications and everything. And we brought up a specific player, Patrick Mahomes, and his team, the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, as we already know, they are a dynasty. They have won 3 in the last 4 years. They're doing a damn good job. They have just been running the table damn near every single year. But a lot of those dreams are kind of like crumbling down. In the great words of Thanos from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, reality can be a very, very tricky thing. And in the case of Rashid Rice, we all know that he got in trouble again this past Monday for allegedly assaulting a photographer at a nightclub. And this comes less than a month after that unfortunate accident that he had at Dallas.
Wait, hold on. I did not hear this. Are you serious?
Damn, I told y'all the damn times before we started the damn show.
I know, but
I didn't know with this crash.
Yeah,
I thought that's what he was dealing with. I didn't realize he got in trouble again.
No, and that was why I'm coming up with the next point.
Whoa.
Because it's been almost 1 month. It was a month when that crash happened. It was just last month. And then just yesterday, story came out that he assaulted a photographer at a nightclub at a place called Club Lit or something like that. And not only that, it was in the same city. It was in the city of Dallas, the same place of the accident. So right now,
suspended for the season.
Yeah. So right now, you got 2 incidents going on that could potentially, and on top of that, he has a $10 million lawsuit with the victims as well to cover all the medical bills and traumas that may have been caused due to that accident and that hit and run. Not to mention that Lamborghini he's going to have to replace, which is a hell of a lot of money. I'm not. So Yeah, that was a Lamborghini that he had.
I miss
That's
it.
that's
It's gonna take a hell of a lot.
insane.
So, hey, my thoughts on that is this. Hold on. My thoughts on it. All right, salute Brandon. Brandon unfortunately has to leave us, man. Any last words before you leave us, brother?
You know, follow me, YouTube, Brandon from the Block. Down below. Got a show Monday, football show, Wednesday basketball show, 7 Eastern time, you know.
All right, then. Hey, check out Brandon from the Block Monday and Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern. Hey, also go to his Instagram page and check out those drafts that we have done every Wednesday on his basketball show. Some hell of a draft that we have, man. A genius mind. Hey, got to give Brandon a hell of a lot of credit, man. Hell of a job. We love what you're doing, brother.
Is it? Oh, your BBN923 Instagram and TikTok. Yeah,
we got you, brother, and we appreciate you, man. Always a privilege and an honor, brother.
For sure, for sure. All right, y'all. Salute.
All right, man.
All right, bro.
But as far as Rashee Rice is concerned, I wouldn't be surprised. And I hate to bring this up, but y'all remember what happened with Ray Rice. You know, they not only suspended him, but they terminated his contract after the tape came out. So it would not surprise me if later on, after he gets a suspension, that the Kansas City Chiefs end up terminating his contract. Because the thing was, the reason why he got drafted in the second round because of some character issues back in Dallas as well, ironically. So my thing is this. I think Rashee Rice needs to keep a low profile, number one, because you up into you. Hey, I hate to say it like this, but you up into your neck and shit right about now, and don't look like you finna get out of it anytime soon. But you have to ask yourself, what are your thoughts on this incident, and how does this impact the potential three-peat? Does this put it in danger, or with them drafting Xavier Worthy, does it not even be a blip on the radar, especially with them signing Hollywood Brown? We'll start with you, BRF.
All right. Well, my thoughts on the incident are, after a situation like what he had with the car crash, you need to be as low profile can be, knowing you're already in trouble facing a lawsuit, and then you got this impending potentially assaulting a photographer. It wouldn't shock me at all if he got suspended for the season, just as far as like detrimental conduct. You know, Kansas City. It wouldn't. I don't know if they would. I don't know if they. I mean, it wouldn't shock me at all if they tried to terminate the contract. Just you know, I think they should. I think they probably should, honestly, at this point, because at this point he's just the PR is just way too negative, and it's just causing too much turmoil for the franchise. I think you need to do what's best. And if you can get out of that contract, get out of that contract at this point. And it's sad because he was coming on as a wide receiver the second half of the season going into the playoffs. I mean, he was starting to really make a name for himself. But with that being said, to steal another quote from Thanos, the Kansas City Chiefs are inevitable. They really are inevitable, because right when you think they're at their lowest point, it's like, as long as you got Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, they're going to be fine. And honestly, at this point, with the way the defense played last year, you could throw Chris Jones into that too, as far as his importance to the team. Drafting Xavier Worthy, signing Hollywood Brown already automatically gives them a better receiving core than they had last year. Even without Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, and Xavier Worthy makes them way better of a receiver core than they had last year. Way better. And then you still got Isaiah Pacheco back there, who's already a really good running back. You locked up Travis Kelce, you made sure he's going to retire in Kansas City. He's still top 5 tight end in the league. He's still putting up good numbers. So I mean, you can't really knock him for that. It's like the Kansas City Chiefs right now are this decade's New England Patriots. It's like no matter what faces them, they find a way to get through it, and they still win football games. Because last year, that was I don't think it was arguably. Last year was the worst Kansas City team of the Patrick Mahomes era that was still able to win, and they won that championship. So this team is better than that team last year because really outside of L'Jarius Sneed, they're pretty much bringing the core of that defense back outside of L'Jarius Sneed. The offense is still going to put up numbers. I feel like Kansas City is still the favorite coming out of the AFC. Honestly, should be the favorite, the NFL favorite overall. They should be the favorite to win the Super Bowl. Even with the Rashee Rice incident, they are still the favorite to me to win the Super Bowl and three-peat. So I guess it puts a little small damper on it, but I feel like the teams around them in the AFC, they're coming along, but you got to beat them to get to that point. So I still feel like they're the favorites to win the Super Bowl. Even with all this, I feel like the team is actually better than the team last year. And that's saying something.
And ironically, the school that Rashee Rice came from was SMU.
It was SMU.
SMU. Talk about irony. Flash.
He might need to get the hell out of Dallas straight up for real.
Yeah.
There is nothing that I disagreed with BRF at all. They should cut him, and I think they're going to because they brought in Zay Jones yesterday for a workout, and which I think would be a great pickup. Because here's the thing: this is where Kansas City's at. Mahomes is now at the point of his career where he's at the Brady level of who he is. I'm not saying he's better than Brady or the GOAT or anything like that, because that ain't gonna happen anytime.
But talent, yeah, like status wise, he's not, but talent wise, he is.
But he's now at that point where it's like the Super Bowl last year against San Francisco. I kept saying it all game. I said, San Francisco's letting him hang around, letting him hang. Can't do this. Can't keep this game close. You're gonna give Mahomes a chance. Oh shit! Oops, sorry. Like, oh crap! Now you just gave him you gave him the ball second. What? Of course he's going to win this game. It's just like the Brady thing. You just didn't. You just don't do this. And now Mahomes and Reed are at such a point now where they don't need elite talent around them. Even Travis Kelce, he last year was starting to show that he's starting to slow down. Kelce is getting to the point where he is Gronk towards the end, where he's not going to dominate a game anymore. But when the fourth quarter with 3 minutes to go and it's 3rd and 10 and you have to have this, he's going to get open. He's going to get you that 3rd and 10. So bringing in Hollywood Brown and getting Xavier Woods and then bringing in Zay Jones for a workout, they don't need Ty Hill. They proved that last year. So, like I said, Mahomes and like I said, and it's a package. Mahomes and Reed are at that point now where they can start doing what the Patriots did, is bringing the guys in that, well, Hollywood Brown, you got all this talent, but some odd reason you didn't work out over here in Baltimore. You didn't work out here in Arizona. Let's bring you in with Andy Reid and our schemes and our coaching ability, and bring you in with the best quarterback of this era. And let's see what happens. And they can do it on the cheap. It's just exactly what New England did. They're like, oh, you're a former 4th-round pick that we kind of did. Let's see what we can get out of you still. We'll bring you in for a prove-it contract, and then when you prove it, we'll let you go and sign a big contract deal, and then we'll get compensatory picks in return for that. It's just it's the pure Patriots playbook. And as long as they can protect Mahomes, he'll be fine. And they are the favorites. They are the king of the mountains. And even if they lose next year in the AFC title game to Joe Burrow and the Bengals, until Mahomes retires right now, it's kind of like the Brady thing. Until Brady retired, that was the bar. That's the bar. Until you stuck until he's dead. That's it. So it's Mahomes every single year until he retires. It might change if like Andy Reid retires before Mahomes does, but I don't think it affects it at all. I think they're the favorites by far.
I agree with that. And furthermore, I want to send a message to these young players. Look, you're in the league. And I hate to say it like this, sit your ass down somewhere. You don't always have to be in a club. You don't always have to be racing cars. You don't always have to be showing how flashy that you can really be. And if you already, I'm going to tell you something that I never forget. I said this on my TikTok on the first video that I made. And my bad, guys, I did not give you the heads up on that story before the show. My apologies about that. I thought since the TikTok had posted, everybody had watched it. My bad about that. But the thing was,
it's all good.
If you already in trouble, it's kind of like getting put on punishment. It's like, remember what your dad used to tell you? Hey, man, sit your ass down when you go to the house. I don't want to have to whoop your ass, but your mama start raving about it, then I'm going to have to whoop your ass. and that's just the bottom line. And it's just like your dad start telling you, hey, man, when you go home, go ahead, put the dishes up, put that game up, give me the game, let me put it in the closet. Don't turn on the TV. Don't do that. Go in there, make up your bed, get the vacuum and everything. And it's kind of like, I don't think these players are getting the message, man. It's like, bro, you already in trouble. Not only that, you had character issues in college. That's the reason why you slipped to the second round in the first place.
Yeah.
And my thing is, why in the hell would you return to the scene of the crime in the same city? In the same city, no less.
You just because of his stupidity.
Yeah, you just got caught in a hit and run last week. They said there was marijuana paraphernalia they said it was marijuana paraphernalia. They stated that, it may have been some instances of alcohol, and he fled the scene. And it's on tape. So you can't lie about it. Then less than a month later, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to the club. What the hell are you doing in a club?
Why are you in a club
like this? What are you doing there?
He should be in his home playing Madden 24.
Well, not only that, look, I never forget what Mike Vick did when he first got out of the penitentiary in Fort Leavenworth. He stayed his behind at the facility, working on his craft with Donovan McNabb and Andy Reid.
Yep.
And the only incident that you ever heard about was when the guy who was the defendant, his co-defendant, got shot at one of his parties. And it was proven that Vic ain't had nothing to do with that. After Vic got from the penitentiary from that dogfighting incident, you never heard a peep out of it.
Nope.
Nope. You never heard a peep out of it.
Nope.
And it's just like, you're already in trouble for something like that. And it was so, and the thing is, the magnitude of that case was so crazy that people don't even realize who Royce West is. He's a former U.S. senator. That's who Rashid Rice's lawyer is.
Yeah. And
if you need to know a little bit more about Royce West, if y'all ever seen the movie Friday Night Lights, he was the lawyer for Dallas Carter I think maybe 6 of those players got arrested for armed robbery.
Yeah.
He was their lawyer. And he's a former United States senator. So for you to have to go get a former United States senator in order to make a case go away, it has to be some other stuff behind the scenes that we probably do not know, especially in the city of Dallas.
Oh,
and
I
said the White House, and we're not talking about the president. Everybody know, all of us know what the White House was when it came to the Dallas Cowboys. So we all know how much trouble you could get into in Dallas because the Cowboys showed us even before the cameras came out. So the thing is, you already had character issues in college. You already had an incident not even a month earlier. I mean, you ain't even got your toe out the pool yet in order to dry it off before you got pushed back in the pool.
God.
So the thing is, why are you doing that? And why are you at a club? People are going to hate on you in the NFL. And guys need to realize this. Young men, if you're watching this, realize this. There's a lot of guys and gals mostly guys, I would say, that are hating on you already because you are a millionaire. They're looking at you sideways because you're a millionaire. They already don't like it because they didn't do anything. Not only that, they're looking for a reason to bring you down to their level. So why are you trying to fight with a photographer? And if you're not there in the first place, what are you doing? I understand people are going to say, well, life doesn't stop. Life doesn't stop. Well, I'm going to tell you, either life can stop as far as you having fun, feeling like you can do whatever you want to do, or your career can stop. Because once that account hits zero and you're no longer in the NFL, they will zoom you out. Look at what happened with Antonio Brown. That should be one of the best cautionary tales in the NFL. Look what happened with Antonio Brown. Look at what happened with T.O., how long it took them to put him in the Hall of Fame. Look at what happened with Mercury Morris. Look at what happened with Michael Vick. There's so many cautionary tales that you could go. I mean, look at what happened with Henry Ruggs. Oof. There's so many cautionary tales in the NFL to show you guys that you're not supposed to do certain things or don't get caught up in the hype of what money can do for you and what money brings, but yet you guys are not paying attention to that. And that's the problem. So as I end this segment, I would encourage all of you young men out there, if you're playing in the NFL and you got a lot to lose, even if you have an NIL contract and you're in college, be careful where you hang out at and be careful what you do. You ain't always got to be the flashiest guy around. You ain't always got to be in a Lamborghini. Sometimes, man, it pays to be the person in your dorm room, in your house, in your apartment, in your tent, in your backyard, just sitting there. Because guess what? If trouble comes to you, then you have a valid reason to be in trouble. Like if somebody comes to your house and breaks in, okay, we can understand that. But when you go out, a lot of the attention that you draw is not very good. And if you don't believe that, just ask Charles Barkley. You know, some of the instances that he got into.
Dude, so I am nowhere near a sports athlete or a millionaire, but I tell you, the amount of trouble that I avoided and when my 20s when I was going out 3, 4, 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
Dude, I can't imagine if I had money. Like I had money where I was like working and I am, but like that kind of money.
Yeah. They already mad because you have that money.
Yeah. I was an idiot making, I was acting a fool when I was making $20 an hour.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine making, that kind of money? And and I know we sound like old farts right now, but
I mean, do we really though? Or are we really trying to impart wisdom on somebody?
I understand getting in trouble once. I get it. Like big time trouble. Like I get it. You do stupid stuff, especially when you're young and you got money. There's not a lot of kids that can handle that kind of money and that kind of fame. There isn't, unless you have really good guidance and really good parents. It's something that not a lot of kids are going to be handling. There's a great quote that I heard a little earlier. It's like if you're surrounded by people that are giving you advice and they're not where you want to be in life, you are around the wrong people. And if there are people encouraging you when you got money to do drugs and drink alcohol and then go rent a Lamborghini and then go flying at 130 miles an hour on I-95 or wherever it was, probably shouldn't be taking advice from those people. Like, it's just, this is where I think I have a problem. Now I'm opening up another can of worms here in general, but like with NIL, I think there was something, not that kids weren't creating problems or doing stupid stuff before NIL, but there's no sense of earning it anymore. And I think there's potential to you're going to make this situation worse where kids do dumb stuff like this even more because there's no sense of earning it. It's just there. You just get it. And this kind of goes to the society we're in now. You're just giving it. There's no sense of entitlement. And I get the argument for paying college players. I do. In fact, I kind of supported it. But they did a really piss poor job of implementing it. And I think, and here's the sad part is a guy like Rashid Rice, now that for all the faults that we complained about before with the NFL and not doing safety, they have programs now. When they bring these rookies in, they have a class, and they bring in guys like Chris Carter that got into a lot of trouble in their early career. And they bring in other guys and they say, hey, you need to get an accountant, and you need to get this guy and that guy and this and that. You need to start investing your money, and you need to start doing this. And you need to sit your butt at home, because nothing good happens after 2:00 unless you go home with a lady. But that lady better be going home with you every night at 2:00 in the morning. So it's and they have that's one thing the NFL and a lot of leagues have done a lot better, is trying to prepare these kids for what they're going to face. And
hey,
I think he should be.
Hey, I don't blame you for thinking that, because the thing is, remember the five things that Tony Dungy told Warren Sapp and the Tampa Bay Bucks that will get you on the USA Today. Out past midnight. Drugs or guns. Alcohol. Going over the speed limit. And people too well or not well enough. And it always gets you right there. And in his case, he hit the 5. But speaking of dynasties, man, we all know the real big dynasties, the guys that, the New England Patriots, the Chicago Bulls, the Celtics of the 70s and the early 60s. But what about the forgotten dynasties, man? The guys who don't get a lot of credit when it comes to the dynasties, man. What are some of the most forgotten dynasties, in you guys' opinion, that we've seen over the course of sports history? And BRF, we'll start with you, bro.
The 2010 San Francisco Giants. The 2010 San Francisco Giants. I believe it was they won 3 and 5 years. They won every other year. I believe it was I can't remember. I'm trying to remember the years. 2011, 2013, 2015 or something like that. But they won 3 and 5 years. Nobody talks about those San Francisco Giants. Those teams were they weren't the great offensive teams, but pitching wise, Madison Bumgarner, Tim Lincecum, had Sergio Romo closing it in the back end out of the bullpen. Those pitching staffs were they were sick. Matt Cain? Those pitching staffs were just sick. They were nasty. And the fact that it was the fact that they got 3 and they got basically 3 every other year. No one talks about them, but those teams were just you had Pablo Sandoval, Buster Posey, Hunter Pence. I mean, those teams were those teams were so good and so underappreciated. And so that's definitely one for me that not a lot of people talk about. One that I wish was a sports dynasty. We can't call them a dynasty because they only won the championship, but it's about as close to a dynasty as you could get. Oh gosh, the Braves of the 90s.
Yeah, all the pennants that we won, yeah.
Well, the Braves of the 90s. The Braves of the 90s were just what could have been, but the only reason why we do not talk about the Atlanta Braves of the 90s more is because of the 96, 98, and 99 New York Yankees.
No.
That's it.
I can't stand the Yankees. long as they don't, every baseball season, as long as they don't win, nothing I'm happy.
Yeah.
I can't stand the Yankees. Flash.
So I'm gonna kind of stick with the baseball, and I'm gonna go the 1970 to 1979 Cincinnati Reds.
Oh man.
The big red machine. Yeah, the Big Red Machine. You had 4 different players who combined for 6 MVPs during the 70s. So, and they won, let's see, how many championships did they win? They won 6 division titles, took home 4 National League pennants, and twice won it all in that decade, beating the Red Sox and the Yankees. Hey, boo. But I think that's a dynasty. I think that's more clouded by all the Pete Rose shenanigans than anything else. I mean, they had Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan, Pete Rose, and George Foster, and I think that they were all MVPs in that decade. And to have 4 different MVPs in a decade, that's insane. And was an offensive machine compared to what the '90s Braves were, which were a complete pitching machine. Greg Maddux, just a sidebar. Greg Maddux is still, in my opinion, the greatest pitcher of all time, and nobody can argue that with me. And I'll do fists over that one. But yeah,
you said Greg Maddux is the greatest pitcher of all time.
Yeah, in my opinion, yeah.
Ooh,
in my opinion, yeah. Ball placement.
I want being a Braves fan. I want to agree, but I don't. I want to agree, but I don't. I don't.
I've never seen a dude command the strike zone like he did.
I'll give you greatest right-handed pitcher, but not greatest. I'll give you I can give you greatest righty, but even still, like, I don't know, greatest pitcher of all time. Because now
the movement on just his fastball was insane. The way he could paint corners, like his two-seam fastball is the greatest pitch I've ever seen. Oh, dude, it just it made guys like Moises Alou like pee themselves. Like it just I just never. And another thing, listen to him talk about pitching. It's like he's a surgeon. Mm-hmm. I could listen to him talk about pitching all day long. The way and then just bring up Tony Gwynn though to him, and he gets all he starts cussing like a sailor. It's hilarious.
Yeah, because Tony Gwynn, he owned him.
Yeah, Tony Gwynn owned him. He's the only player that just owned Greg Maddux. But yeah, the '70s Reds. That was my and I like I said, and I think that's forgotten and kind of clouded over because of Pete Rose and what he did with gambling. So that's my forgotten dynasty.
And how I'm going to end this show, we always get it to GOAT talks and everything like that. I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to go in hockey. The Edmonton Oilers of the 80s.
They were one of my picks.
Oh,
Edmonton Oilers of the 80s.
They were one of my multiples.
They went back-to-back twice. And then not only that, they won after they traded the greatest of all time in Wayne Gretzky. And I really think that's overshadowed, to be honest with you, because of how great basketball was in the 80s and football was in the 80s. We're looking back on it. But during that time, man, the combination of Wayne Gretzky and Mark Messier, not to mention Glenn Anderson, that was, man, that was, hey, now I'm glad that Wayne got traded. Otherwise, I wouldn't be a Los Angeles Kings fan. I wouldn't be a Los Angeles Kings fan. But
sorry, Champ, go ahead. I apologize.
But no, go ahead. Ask a question.
I was going to ask a question. Do you think because that was one of my just depending on how many people we had, and the Edmonton Oilers was one of my picks for like a forgotten dynasty. For a lot of reasons. I think him being traded to LA is actually, it makes people forget. I think he's remembered for being in LA. That's the weird part. Like when you think of Wayne Gretzky, you think of him in an LA Kings jersey.
I mean, to be honest with you, that's because, and I'm not going to lie. The reason how I became an LA Kings jersey was I saw a certain music group with an LA Kings hat on. I'm like, okay, who the hell?
Yeah, you had that too. Yeah,
NWA. Seen them with the LA Kings hat. I'm like, who the hell is the LA Kings? Back then, the only thing we saw, in silver and black was the Raiders. So the first thing I do, I turn on the TV, try to find the channel. Back then you had to flip. It was like, oh, okay. And I started doing, you go to the library, do your encyclopedia research, start using. That's how old I am. You start doing research, and okay, Wayne Gretzky. Okay, that's who I'm watching every other day is Wayne Gretzky. And I think people remember that because remember, man, the reason why he had to leave is because, hey, Edmonton was not a huge market. It was kind of like, and I hate to say this because I know that's one of your other teams. It was kind of like Green Bay.
Yeah, it was.
It was kind of like Green Bay. It's the Green Bay of hockey. And the thing is, they couldn't afford all those guys. Wayne Gretzky, the reason why he got traded, they couldn't afford him anymore. I mean, and if you really want to be honest, look at how valuable he was to hockey during that time. And overall, hell, he was underpaid. I mean,
he's the Michael Jordan.
$2 million was a lot, but you really look at what he did for the game, like shit, you underpaid, to be honest with you.
Could you have imagined, like, if Wayne Gretzky, like, if prime Wayne Gretzky was in like a later time frame, like if we got like prime Wayne Gretzky in like late 90s, early 2000s, the money he would have been able to command it if we got that Wayne Gretzky at a later time frame when money was actually being thrown around a little bit. My God.
I mean, I don't think he got a chance. I know that, and I know I had an incident where, I said that he was the only athlete that was the undisputed GOAT of his sport. In every other sport, there's questions about who's the GOAT, but in his sport, it's only him. And I know people got on to me because everybody wanted me to say, I know the Pittsburgh Penguins, they in fact got into my comments and said, we beg to differ. It was Mario Lemieux. I'm like, no.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah, they
Champ,
said
you are dead on. You were dead on with that, champ. Wayne Gretzky is the only undisputed GOAT in any of the major sports. That is a fact. Mario Lemieux is a dog, but no.
Yeah.
No.
I wanted to say it was Mario Lemieux. I'm like, no, it's Wayne. The record book say Wayne. He could have not scored. The thing is, my bad, Flash.
No, you're good, dude.
He could have not scored. If he didn't score a point, if he didn't get one goal his entire career, he still would have scored more points than anybody in the history of the NHL.
That's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous. I think he got 8 MVPs.
Yeah.
8
That's
MVPs.
ridiculous.
You know what's silly about the Edmonton dynasty is it's actually one of the greatest sports dynasties of all time.
Yeah.
And everybody forgets about it. That's the weird part. That's why I wanted to bring it up. It's this pocket in time of 7 years. They won 5 championships in 7 years. And it's amazing. There's a documentary. There's an ESPN 30 for 30 on Gretzky being traded to
King's Ransom.
Yeah, King's Ransom. It's a great documentary. I highly recommend anybody watching to go watch it. And how weird that was. It would have been like if the Bulls just up and traded Jordan to like the Lakers.
That would. You realize how many damn wires that would have caused it?
Oh. But it's so weird. I kind of disagree on to me, Jordan is always the undisputed GOAT of basketball. And I just think that way because I made it's my pinned TikTok video on my channel. And there are 1,000 different reasons on why. So I kind of disagree that but I think you're right. Like broad spectrum, he is the only undisputed GOAT for the most part. Like, yeah, you have your pockets like, oh, Mario Lemieux is better, or there's a couple like Gordie Howe better. There's a couple people who go like, oh, Gordie Howe. No, it's just not even close.
Not even close.
And I think Brady has reached that level. Mahomes is. But I think Brady's. I think if you don't say Brady's the greatest of all time, you're kind of silly at this point. But yeah, it's so weird how that like Wayne Gretzky, when we talk about the GOAT of GOATs, or just that thing, it's like he's remembered more for going to LA and then winning that title in New York than than being part of one of the greatest sports dynasties, not just the greatest hockey dynasty, one of the greatest sports dynasties ever. And I'm talking about it's up there with the multiple Yankees dynasties, the Patriot dynasty, the 60s Packers, like the 50s Browns, which is another one I was going to bring up, the 50s Browns dynasty that went to 10 straight title games, like that never gets brought up in dynasties ever.
Yeah, Otto Graham
and Jim Brown and them fools running amok in the NFL. But like it's like when you go and look at the greatest dynasties of all time, sports dynasty, it's right up there with all of them. And there's an argument that it's the like top 3.
Yeah.
And it's just brushed under the rug. It's so weird. And I don't know if that's because hockey's like the redheaded stepchild of the United States when it comes to the sports.
Well, no, I don't. Here's my thing. Back then, I believe a lot of people was preoccupied. I mean, when you think about the 80s, the first thing when you bring up sports is the 49ers. You bring up the 49ers. And if you are a sports savant, the first thing you think about, well, let me take that back. The first thing you think about when you think about sports in America, I would say, is Bird and Magic.
Yep.
In the 80s, yes. Yeah, the 80s,
Bird and Magic. Then the second thing you think about is the Niners and Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Then after that, you think about Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Then after that, you think about Lawrence Taylor. And I think by the time you get down to the Edmonton Oilers, it's like, oh, yeah, they did have a dynasty. And then you got to think about that was the golden era of basketball. You had Bird, Magic, Dr. J, and Michael Jordan in the league all at the same time.
Well, they still talk about the 86 Mets, then they talk about those Oilers.
Yeah, they still talk about the 86 Mets. That was the Doc and Darryl. They have a documentary on that. But I think the reason why they're forgotten is because when you think about the 80s, the first thing you think about is Bird and Magic. Then you think about Joe Montana. Then you think about Lawrence Taylor. Then you think about Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was a Goliath in the 80s. You know what I'm saying? And, and in the 80s, you think about a lot of other stuff too. Studio 54, all of that. And then by the time you get to the Edmonton Oilers, it's like, oh, hell yeah, they did have a great team. So that's the reason why I think that they get forgotten. But on that note, man, hey, it's been fun as hell, like every Thursday night, in order to get with my pals and talk about some real good sports, to have some real good sports debate, man. Shout out to PSP, shout out to Casual, shout out to Brandon from the Block, shout out to everyone in the chat, man. Shout out to Sports for You, shout out to everybody who joined us, man. Hey, Flash, we'll start with you, man. Tell the people where to find you at, brother.
You can catch me at Flash22 on TikTok. That's my main channel. I haven't been posting there a lot lately. I've actually been concentrating on my other channel, which is called Dad Bod to Rad Bod, and I've actually posted some videos on there. It's just my journey of kind of getting back into shape after suffering from psoriatic arthritis. So if you want to give a shout out and a follow over there, that would be greatly appreciated. Other than that, YouTube is not up and running yet. I'm trying to get to the summer where I will have a little bit more time to kind of get stuff up and running. But just bear with me. I know it's a slow go, but I do social media for my church and I do my own social media, and I'm trying to get back into that. So I have a lot of mitts in a lot of different places. So just bear with me. But yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you. I appreciate you for coming on, man. Always a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor. Frank, tell the people where to find you at, brother.
Well, first and foremost, like I said, the main one is always the TikTok is at BRF Sports. I got my link tree in the bio. Link tree. It's a Big Sugar 1122. There you'll find my Facebook page. You'll find my IG. You'll find my Twitter /X. And I want to get back. I actually have like a well, I think it's like Spotify. It's like Spotify for podcasters. That was Anchor at one point. I had I had like an episode on there that I kind of like man-made, kind of did myself on the fly, like 20 some odd minutes. I'm thinking about maybe wanting to do some more audio kind of like podcasts and stuff like that. Some more, trying to kind of get myself out there a little more. But yeah, just hit the link tree in the bio. Champ, I got to tell you, man, it's always a pleasure getting on here. It's always a pleasure getting on here doing this podcast with you. Flash, it's always a pleasure jumping on here with you, talking sports with you. I mean, it's always great. You know, Champ being from Columbus, myself being from Madison, Georgia, and where you from, Flash?
I'm from Wisconsin.
See, that's what I'm talking about. The Wisconsin, it's nation. I like the nation. It's basically like a nationwide thing. You know, all walks of life, being able to do what we do best, get on here, talk sports, do what we love, and just spreading it with the people, spreading it for the followers, for the fans. So, like I always say, a topic not thought about is a topic not talked about. I do have some stuff in the works as far as like video ideas I'm coming up with. I've been keeping track of baseball. Baseball's been really hot so far. I got some concepts I want to do. I am gonna make a couple of videos like this week. I'm gonna try to. I've had a lot going on as far as work and everything, but I'm gonna give I want some feedback as far as like I have my way too early picks for like the MLB awards so far. I'm gonna do a couple of videos on those and just to get some feedback. But if y'all, for all the followers out there, we appreciate y'all. If y'all got any ideas, hit us up. Hit me up. I'll listen to any and everything. But y'all take it easy. It's always a pleasure being on here with you, champ. Love to keep doing these with you, bro.
All right. And on that note, I am the Undisputed Champ, live from Columbus, Georgia, the greatest city in America. And I will catch you next Thursday when the NFL schedule comes out. We're going to give you a lot of the games that we're most looking forward to. But until that time, we are out.
Yeah.